Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming to you from right here on my YouTube channel. I am, of course, your host, John Campea, and it is an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, our international friends, gather around as we talk about our favorite things in the world, movies, movie news, TV, streaming, all sorts of good stuff, and it's Monday, and that means his regalness himself, Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett, is here. Robert, how you doing today, sir?
John, you know what? I can't help but feel good. I think that I feel the spring is here. I feel like entertainment. There's more to be excited about this week than we've had to be excited in a long time. You got Godzilla versus Kong. There's great news that we're going to talk about during the show. I feel, John, that my inner smile is coming back after a long time.
You can feel it, right? You can feel it.
I can feel it, dude. I can feel it. I think that, you know, as they said in Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, dice are rolling.
Dice are rolling. And hey, listen, a couple things going along with that is that this past Thursday night, I actually went. Now, you know, last week I told everybody that we booked a private theater at AMC to go and watch. And by the way, Toodly Dundee sends in a super chat badge in the live chat. Thank you, man. We did that. But on Thursday night, I actually bought tickets, used my AMC A-list for the first time in a year, bought tickets, went to go see the new Bob Odenkirk movie, Nobody. And it's so fun. It is so fun. And Christopher Lloyd, I didn't even know Christopher Lloyd was in it. Christopher Lloyd's in it, plays his dad, plays Bob Odenkirk's dad. And I won't give away who else is in it, but it's a really, really fun time. Had a chance the last couple days to watch the first few episodes of Invincible, which we'll talk about in just a moment. But hey, guys, I should let you know a little bit of housekeeping here. Tomorrow's episode of the John Campea Show. We are going to be starting the show 1 hour later than normal. So tomorrow's John Campea Show, instead of at 10 a.m., we will be starting the show instead at, what time am I starting the show tomorrow? At 11 a.m. Tomorrow's show will start at 11 a.m. because I am actually going down to get my, I'm going to go get my vaccination shot tomorrow, which I'm very excited about. Very excited to finally get that taken care of. Going to go get my vaccination shot. So tomorrow again, the John Campea Show, instead of 10 a.m., will start at 11 a.m. Tomorrow. So there's that. Also, a little bit of house cleaning, guys, before we get into a lot of our main stuff. If you haven't done so already, did you know that we have an audio-only version of the John Campea Show? It's called the John Campea Show Podcast. We put most episodes up there. You can go and find it. Simply search for the John Campea Show Podcast on your podcasting app of choice and go and subscribe to it there for, you know, when you're at work or you're commuting or whatever. You can't actually watch a YouTube video. Don't worry, we got you covered. The John Campea audio version is there. Also, want to remind you guys, we haven't reminded you of this in a while, we did make a documentary last year that is now out and available everywhere. It is called Movie Trailers, A Love Story. Clearly, it's a documentary about movie trailers. You can get it any country you live in the world. Wherever you live, you can get it at vimeo.com/on-demand/movie trailers. And you can watch it there. Or if you live in the US or the UK, you also have the option of watching it on Amazon. Simply go to Amazon and search for Movie Trailers, A Love Story, and you should be able to find it there. And thank you to all of you guys who have already gone and watched it, rated it, all that kind of stuff. The response to the movie has been overwhelming, so thank you guys so much for that. Also, by the way, Karoom Potts also sends in a super chat badge in the live chat. Thank you for that, Karoom. Appreciate that, man. All right, guys, listen. Here's how today's going to go. We're going to break today's show into two separate parts. The first half of the show, we're going to cover some predetermined topics. And then in the second half of the show, we're going to take your live comments and questions. How do you get a live comment or question on the show? It's really simple. Simply go over to the tip link that's down in the description of this video, or you could enter it in manually at streamelements.com/movieblogtv/tip. You'll be getting your comment or question on the show if it's appropriate for the show. And of course, you'll be supporting the show at the same time. And all of us here involved with the show, thank you guys very, very much for that support. And by the way, Daniel C. also sends in a super chat badge in the live chat. Thank you, Daniel. Okay, guys. With all that down and out of the way, let's get into our main topics today. And how do we select our main topics here on the John Campea Show? Well, it's really rather simple. You see, you guys come up with them. Whenever you come across a big topic, story, or issue that you think we should cover here on the John Campea Show, simply go anytime 24/7 over to www.thejohncampeashow.com/contact. Once you guys get there, you're going to see a form. Fill it out with your topic or question. It's totally free. Hit submit, and then maybe, just maybe, you might see your submission featured as a main topic here on the John Campea Show. With that down, let's get into main topic number 1, shall we? And our first main topic today gets submitted to us by Josh Nitkin, who writes, "Big fan of the show. Thank you so much, Josh. I was wondering if you caught the first 3 episodes of the new Amazon show Invincible. I binged the 3 episodes today and loved it. I've not read the comic, though now I am very interested. With Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg being some of the producers, I'm not surprised how well this show is done. Considering how amazing The Boys is, what are your thoughts? Thanks, and bring on the most filthiest of filthies." All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, Josh. And yeah, listen, some of you may have heard me talk about this before. While I am a big fan of Marvel and DC movies and stuff, I am really not a fan of Marvel or DC's animated stuff, Rob. I find most of the animated stuff to be total shite. Now, that said, there are exceptions. You know, obviously, Mask of the Phantasm, The Dark Knight Returns, the Doctor Strange animated movie. There are a few exceptions. I also thought Flashpoint was pretty good. But 99% of it, I think, is all crap. So I'm not really big on that, which is one of the reasons I didn't think I was going to like Harley Quinn. But I love Harley Quinn. And so Invincibles has been coming, and it's got a very interesting voice cast. I have also never read the comics. So I finally say, you know, okay, fine, I'll check it out. Rob, this show is great.
Yep.
This show is great. And it's, you know, it starts off and you're thinking, okay, yeah, teenager, discovery has powers. Ooh, never seen that before. But it really evolves as the show goes on. You get a number of big WTF moments, and the character work is so well done. It's obviously a lot of tropes we've seen before, but these tropes are being used in ways that are very unique. And I got to tell you, Rob, I found myself getting sucked into this show like I would be getting sucked into, an episode of Breaking Bad or an episode of Sons of Anarchy or something like that. Like, I just found the drama of it was really interesting. Also, one of the most creative ways to have a threesome I've ever seen put to screen. But that will be talked about another time. This show's great. It's great. Now, I'm not going to say it's on the same level as The Boys or anything like that. I don't think it is. But as a guy who generally doesn't like the superhero animated stuff, I got to tell you, I was very impressed. The 3rd episode ended, and I was like, where is that next one, and when does the next one come? I cannot wait to watch it. Rob, you had a chance to watch the first 3 episodes of Invincible that have come out. What have you thought about it so far?
Well, first, I have read the comic. I've got absolute versions that they publish, those oversized versions. I've always liked this comic, and I think first and foremost, it's a really great adaptation of the source material. It's really faithful to it. And Evan Goldberg and Seth Rogen are producers, and to me, it kind of they've made a trilogy, but with Preacher, The Boys, and now Invincible, of these very irreverent, R-rated comics that don't pull any punches. And I had really high hopes for this going in, and they were met, maybe even exceeded. And I was first like you. I'm like, animation, but the voice casting is so good. And I mean, the whole opening scene, when it's like 2 guys talking about the guards at the White House. They spend this long time talking about, the one guy's trying to have a father-son vacation with his kid. I mean, they didn't have to spend so much time doing that, but the show is really all about character. Yeah. And while it has all the superhero action and R-rated, I mean, there's violence and sex, and it's great to watch, but they never forget that it's a show about characters first. And I think they do a great job with that. And they really, even though, like you said, you pointed out the tropes are there, yeah, but they subvert them all. It's the very familiar tropes that they do new things with, just like in the comic. And I think that they've done a tremendous job. And I really like the clean, it's simple, but it's a very clean and effective animation style. It's fun to watch.
Yeah, they didn't break the bank on the animation style, but you're
No.
right. It works for the show, and it works
Yes.
very well. And I've been enjoying it. The question is for you guys. Have you guys had a chance to check out this show, Invincible? I got to admit, it is much better than I was anticipating it being. I'm having a really good time with it. What did you guys think? Jump on down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Okay, guys. With that down, let's move on to main topic number 2. And our second main topic today gets submitted to us by Rajan, who writes, The Rock unveiled the release date of Black Adam to be July 29th, 2022. This movie sets up a direct clash with the 5th Indiana Jones and adds on to the list of blockbuster movies for next July. Minions 2, Black Panther 2, Fantastic Beasts 3 being the others. What do you think of this movie? And do you think these movies will stick to their release dates, especially with Black Adam and Indiana Jones 5? Hashtag bring on the filthy. All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And it is not an exaggeration to mention that we have been talking about Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson doing a Black Adam movie for 5 years. It's not an exaggeration to say that. We've been talking about it for 5 years. Since they announced it, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson says, there's going to be a new power hierarchy in the world of DC, says Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. 5 years. And then, a lot of promises along the way. Okay, we're going to get started, this year. No. This year we're going to get started. We totally swearsies. Pinky promise and everything. We're going to be starting this year. And then another year passed. No, now we're going to be starting. And then a pandemic hits. And but it looks like it's actually really happening. It's actually happening. This comes to us from the folks over at MovieWeb who write, it's official. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson has taken over Times Square to reveal that the release date for Black Adam, just ahead of the UCLA versus Alabama NCAA tournament. By the way, UCLA won that game in a thriller ending to that game. Anyway, where were we? Oh, yes, NCAA tournament game on Sunday. Johnson appeared in a TV spot for Black Adam, revealing that the movie will be released on July 29th, 2022. So we finally got a release date, and Rob, they're actually going to get in front of the cameras, I believe, in the next couple of weeks. I believe they actually start rolling cameras in the next couple of weeks. So this thing is now actually happening. They're going to actually be shooting this thing. There are a bunch of question marks. Now, of course, Rob, we just talked the other day about the fact that Pierce Brosnan, the former James Bond, the former Remington Steele, is going to play Dr. Fate. I'm very excited about that. But this whole idea about this big showdown confrontation between Indiana Jones 5 and Black Adam comes with a lot of asterisks. Asterisk number 1. Yeah, let's see if Black Adam actually goes into production, because we've heard this song and dance about 5 times already. It actually does look like it's going to happen. Can it then go through a nice, clean production schedule and actually get everything shot without, COVID rearing its ugly head and delaying them more and all that kind of stuff? Things are looking good, but, we're not out of the woods yet. By the way, Iconic Reaction sends in a super chat badge in the live chat. Thank you, Iconic. So there is that. The other part of that equation, Rob, that is the even bigger question mark is, I don't believe for a hot second that Indiana Jones 5 is coming in July 29th of 2022. They've been talking about this for I've almost as long as maybe longer that they've been talking about Black Adam. And I understand they've got a director attached now, same guy who directed Logan and did such a great job with that. But I think that's a huge question mark as to whether or not that actually happens. So I only put it at a 15 to 20% chance that we'll get to July 29th, 2022, and both of those movies are opening on the same day. But I would say this, if they do, Rob, look like they're heading in that trajectory, and that they are, let's for argument's sake say they're going to make their targets. One of them's got to move. Because they're just, while Indiana Jones is not a comic book movie, they appeal to a lot of the same demographics. And so I would just say one of them would probably have to budge. And I would say the movie that should move would probably be Indiana Jones. Except Disney doesn't like to move for other people. Although I think in this case, I think the right thing to do would be moving Indiana Jones. Anyway, Rob, a lot here to cover. Dwayne Johnson says they got a release date. They're starting to shoot this thing. It's supposedly opening up against Indiana Jones 5. What are your thoughts on all of this?
Well, like you said, I mean, can we believe in release dates anymore? I think I'm going to be gun shy about release dates for years to come, probably. But I mean, we haven't even got out the movies that were supposed to come out a year ago. But I think, look, assuming we still have COVID cases running rampant around the world, Brazil's a mess, Germany's going into more of lockdowns, even though we'll see. But I think that they've been able to, with COVID protocols that have been put in place, they've been able to do a production. There's things in production. And I think they, like you said, I don't know about Indiana Jones 5, but I think Black Adam, I think they're going to do it this time. I think it's going to happen. After all, Black Adam is kind of a magical being, and it would be magic if this movie finally got made. I read something. It was originally announced in 2003.
Black Adam?
2003 or 4. Yeah. There was like a tweet, and somebody had put a picture of the very first time Dwayne Johnson was associated with the Black Adam movie was like in 2003 or 4. And I'm like, wow, really? That's insane. And because he looks like the Black Adam in Kingdom Come. So I always thought that was a great idea, but I guess, some dreams, John, they just endure. And I dream of one day next year seeing a real Black Adam movie.
Well, keep hope alive. But let me ask you this. Let's say the improbable happens, not impossible, but at this point, improbable. And let's say both Black Adam, everything goes according to plan. They're able to launch July 29th. Indiana Jones 5, miracles of miracles. They're actually able to get this thing going, and they hit that release date. What do you think? How does that get resolved? Do you think they just both open on the same day if they're able to? Do you think one moves? How do you think they're going to deal with that?
I mean, obviously they'd be cannibalizing each other's audiences. I think it's really going to depend on where movie theaters are. Are they going to be at full capacity? Because if they're not by then, I don't think that the box office would be able to support two major contenders like that. I think one would have to move because otherwise, right now, look, the box office is on an uptick. We'll talk about that later, but it really depends on if theaters are open at 100% capacity, why not? But if they're not, I think one of those movies is going to have to move.
All right, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this whole situation? I mean, they've got a release date for Black Adam now. They technically had release dates before, but it looks like it's actually happening this time. Will it hit that date? Will Indiana Jones 5? Will they go head to head? Will one of them move? How do you guys see this? Jump on down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Okay, guys. With that down, let's move on to main topic number 3. And our third main topic today gets submitted to us by Sean Connor Martin, who writes, some fans of the Snyder Cut have recently started to review bomb Godzilla vs. Kong in order to show WB that they are upset with their current decision to move away from the Snyderverse going forward. While this has led other fans to make an effort to negate their reviews, it shows how childish some fans have become that they're willing to tank another movie to get their way. All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, Sean. And yeah, listen, I have said for a long time, and I'm glad Rotten Tomatoes made a change in their audience reviews, although they got to figure out a way to do it for television stuff and streaming stuff because they just don't have a good way to do it. But for theatrical movies, eventually Rotten Tomatoes changed it to where you have to be able to verify that you actually saw the movie in order to submit a user rating. Because one of the reasons I've always said things like IMDb, Rotten Tomatoes user ratings, Rob, are completely useless is because people can just go in there having never seen the movie and either praise it. It's like, if the movie hasn't even come out, you haven't seen it. I don't care. I know it's a 10 out of 10 and 10, 10, 10, 10, 10. Or review bomb it. You've never even seen this movie yet. Doesn't matter. It's got this guy and he sucks. 1, 1, 1, 1. Or I guess they don't allow you to do zeros. 1. And that's just why I've said for years, completely ignore user ratings. User ratings are useless because anybody can just go in and do that, which is one of the reasons why I liked what Rotten Tomatoes did, making it that you had to verify you saw the movie. That being said, we have now seen something that I'd like to say we're surprised to see, but really we're not surprised. Godzilla vs. Kong, which is of course being released by Warner Brothers, has seen a bunch of people dive over to IMDb and flood it with 1 out of 10 ratings. And letting people know why they're doing it, because they leave the hashtag on it, restore the Snyder Cut. And you get things like down here at the bottom, the username is I Hate You Warner. They gave Godzilla vs. Kong a 1 out of 10, which of course they haven't even seen the movie. Hashtag restore the Snyderverse if you want good reviews in your next movie, Warner. If you want good reviews in your next movie, Warner, you better do what we say. And of course, they got flooded with this stuff, which is very odd. Here's the thing, Rob. It's counterproductive. Like, do these morons understand that by acting like that, you think Warner Brothers is reading this stuff and going, wow, maybe we should restore the Snyderverse. Do you think that's what they're doing? No. The only thing you're actually accomplishing is making Warner Brothers regret that they ever let you see the Snyder Cut in the first place. You're just making them regret it. And you're making them go, we're never going to do that again. Because look what happens. It's like a guy comes along to you and says, hey man, can you lend me $5? Like a friend of yours maybe who's having a hard time. Can you lend me $5 so I can go, buy a McChicken sandwich at McDonald's? And you say, you know what? Sure. Yeah. Here, take $5. Oh, thanks. You gave me $5. And then they pull a gun on you, say, now give me your car. And that's what's happening here. And there are some people that instead of just being grateful that they were able to see, that Warner Brothers was never going to do, they let them see it. And now instead of saying, thank you, Warner Brothers, for putting up the extra money, even though they're taking a loss on it. Thank you, Warner Brothers, for putting up the money. Thank you for giving us this that we can watch it because we really wanted to see it. Thank you for that. Instead of doing that, now this is not, terrorism's a very different thing. This is not terrorism, but they are adopting a terrorist mentality. Let's try to damage you until you do what we want you to do. And it's absolutely ridiculous. Rob, you often use the phrase, just take the win, man. Say right. Thank you. And show other studios that, hey, we can be grateful and thank you for this. And this is awesome. And make it a big positive thing. Instead, they're taking it and making it a huge toxic mess of a situation where now Warner Brothers is like, we'll probably never do that again. And other studios are looking at this and saying, that's how you react. But Rob, there is good news to this. There is good news to this. And actually, I think it's great news because every single fandom, this isn't just a DC fandom thing. Marvel fandom has its toxic underbelly. Star Wars fandom has its toxic underbelly. Harry Potter fandom has it. Every single fandom does. Sports fandom has its toxic. They all do. Everybody does. There's nothing unique about this. But what doesn't often happen and should happen more often than not is when a fandom will police its own. When a fandom polices its own. And here's where the good news comes from. The good news is a whole bunch of people who are really big supporters of the Restore the Snyderverse movement and all that kind of stuff, they saw what was going on with these idiots review bombing something else. And a bunch of people in the Restore the Snyder Cut version, they said, no. And they started positive review bombing Godzilla vs. Kong and putting in 10 out of 10s and strictly saying, like they put in the hashtag Restore the Snyderverse, hey, listen, we're just happy, blah, blah. Thank you, Warner Brothers. And, don't pay any attention to the minority of people in the Restore the Snyderverse thing who are doing stuff like this. They don't represent us. I'm paraphrasing, obviously. But it was really good to see that when the toxic underbelly of any particular fandom, in this case, the Snyder part, it's good to see the positive side of that fandom, the majority, step up and say, no. They don't represent us. Please understand that the actions of these morons do not represent the majority of us. Now, nobody should be putting in fake reviews for any movie, positive or negative, but I applaud all those people who were like, no. This is not how we act. And they try to counter it. And they've countered it very well, because I think right now Godzilla vs. Kong, the average rating on IMDb, which shouldn't be paid attention to anyway, is sitting at somewhere around 7.9 or something like that. So I say bravo to the majority of the fans in that camp who decided to say, that doesn't represent us or how we think or how we act, and we're going to do something about it. Bravo to them. Anyway, Rob, you saw this whole situation. What do you think about it?
Well, the thing that I think bummed me out the most, and it's what we talked about before we went on the show, is that, when we had a whole fan movement restore the Snyder Cut, in a way, that was really about restoring a vision that the studio commissioned, that a filmmaker was making, and all of that got corrupted and destroyed. But ultimately in there, it was that Zack Snyder's vision that was being celebrated and hopefully demanded to be released. Well, Zack Snyder has a movie coming out in May on Netflix, Army of the Dead. He's got a prequel series being made and an animated series. And what's disconcerting is to see fans not supporting the very filmmaker they've been supporting for the last 4 years with his new endeavor, that they would rather go and destroy a movie that's completely unrelated. What about Adam Wingard? He's a filmmaker that had an opportunity to make a big budget movie like King of Godzilla vs. Kong, who had nothing to do with the Snyder Cut. And this is a big deal for him, as a creator, and it's advancing his career, and reviews matter and getting people to go see it. So instead, and what about supporting Zack Snyder's new work over at Netflix? I mean, you've got filmmakers that need the same kind of support. Zack Snyder needs your continued support for his new endeavors. On a filmmaker like Adam Wingard, who's been working away in lower budget fare for years and now has an opportunity to make a big budget studio blockbuster. Let's support him. And yet these people that were doing these review bombs are doing neither, supporting Zack Snyder or Adam Wingard's work on Godzilla vs. Kong, because basically they're being selfish. It's all when you go and review bomb a thing, it's not even about a filmmaker or a movie. It's about you. You're making a statement about yourself. It's very, very selfish. And I find it to be incredibly counterproductive on every level. And it's certainly not what you should be doing. I understand the intentions are good, but the road to hell, John, is paved with the people that were review bombing Godzilla vs. Kong.
All right, question is, guys, what did you think about this, and does it in any way? What are your thoughts overall about user reviews on things that can't be moderated or verified on things like IMDb or whatever? What are your thoughts on this? What do you think about the situation as a whole? Jump down into the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to main topic number 4. And our fourth main topic today gets submitted to us by Sam Sprill. And Sam Sprill writes, "Hey, John and Rob, with Godzilla vs. Kong on the horizon in the US, the movie rolled out internationally with $122 million, making it the highest opening during the pandemic era. Could this be the first sign of box office resurgence? What are your thoughts?" All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And of course, Godzilla vs. Kong is opening this week here in North America, where I live. And by the way, I've already got my tickets, Rob. 3 p.m. on Wednesday. I'm dragging my ass into an IMAX screen to go watch this baby. Anyway, looking forward to that great deal. It has opened in other countries around the world, and it has done exceedingly well, especially considering the era we are in right now. This comes to us from the folks over at The Hollywood Reporter, who write, Godzilla vs. Kong opened to a pandemic best $121.8 million at the foreign box office, giving Hollywood hope that tentpoles can make a comeback as theaters reopen. Christopher Nolan's Tenet previously had the biggest offshore. Listen to this. The previous record in this era was $53 million. It more than doubled it. got within eyesight of maybe close to tripling it. Anyway, Legendary and Warner Brothers monster mashup enjoyed an especially loud roar in China, where it launched to a huge $70.3 million. Legendary has sole distribution and marketing duties in the Middle Kingdom, while Warner's is handling the marketing and distribution everywhere else. Rob, it has been a while since we have been able to look at a box office number and go and do anything other than, oh my God, things are bad. It's been a long time. Yes. I saw this number. Now, I expected to see climbing numbers. I expected to see, improved numbers with a Godzilla versus Kong. I was not ready to see 122 million just in overseas markets alone. I was expecting something significant. I thought it could beat the Tenet number because things are a little bit better right now of 53 million. But I was thinking 65 million, 70 million, maybe. This is, again, if this was 2019, 122 million, not a great number for overseas opening. Obviously not a great number. For today, it's amazing. And it is, I believe, a small step showing that, guess what? People are wanting to go back to the movies. Now, we're not all the way there yet. Godzilla versus Kong is not going to make $600 million. And that would be ridiculous to think that of anything right now. But the level of success it's having, I think it has adjusted our expectations about what it might be able to do in North America. And it's a tremendous sign. And, Rob, I can just speak from my own experience. When I was originally looking for places to buy tickets for Godzilla versus Kong, they were sold out everywhere. Everything was sold out. Now, granted, we live in the Los Angeles area, which is, movie going is a much bigger part of the culture here than a lot of other places. But still, like everything where they were showing movies, Godzilla versus Kong was sold out. So I was lucky to get the tickets that I did. Anyway, Rob, you see these numbers. A couple things. Do you think these are numbers that the folks at Warner Brothers should be excited about? And what, if anything, do you think this tells us about what we may be able to expect when Mortal Kombat comes out? When a couple of these other ones start rolling out, how does this adjust your view of the whole paradigm right now? What do you think?
Well, as the Beatles once sang, it's getting better all the time. And, it's so funny that we're now in a position where we're just clamoring to get back to where we were normally before the pandemic. But I think, look, this is a signpost that is pointing to the fact that people want to go back to the movies. That hopefully, as we emerge, as people are vaccinated, we emerge out of this, that movie theaters are not going to die. That people still crave that collective experience, seeing films in big auditoriums and voting with their entertainment dollar. I think it can only be considered a good thing. And, for this particular movie, it's funny that Tenet's going to lead the way back to movie theaters. You know what? No. This big, dumb, fun, awesome movie, which I would assume it's awesome. I think it's going to be awesome. Even if it's not, for me, it'll be awesome. The fact that it's this movie that is bringing fun back to the movie theaters. Like you said, the way you've been waxing rhapsodic about this, it's two giant titans. It's like an MMA fight writ large on the big screen. What's not to love? And I think it's a signpost of what's to come. And I think it's bring on Fast and Furious, man. Come on.
Well, yeah. And on top of that, like I'm hoping, like, look, I mentioned that I went to go to the movies this Thursday to go see Nobody. I think a lot of people even forgot it was coming out in theaters. But the limited capacity, because they reduced capacity to theaters, but they sold out the theater I was in for Nobody. And I'm hoping, everybody seemed to have a really good time, which increases the odds that they're probably going to want to come back to the movies. I'm hoping Godzilla versus Kong can have a really good, impact so that when Mortal Kombat comes out, I hope there's a snowball effect. And again, none of this would be worth talking about if I went to the movies and I didn't feel like the theater I was at, which was an AMC theater, wasn't taking their safety protocols seriously. But they were. I was impressed from the moment I walked in the door to the moment that we left about the safety protocols they had. I felt very good about being there.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping that this can snowball. And I just, I am so excited to see this on the big screen. I am so excited to see Mortal Kombat on the big screen, especially after watching Nobody. It just heightens that a lot. So it's looking good. The question is for you guys. Actually, you know what, Rob? Let me throw this out to you. Now, obviously, if this was 2019, we would be looking for an opening weekend of, I mean, I don't know, maybe an opening weekend of $90 million, $110 million, maybe for something like that. Let me look this up. What was Godzilla King of the Monsters opening weekend? Let me see. Hold on a second. Godzilla King of the Monsters box off. Let me just see if I can find this quick, because I am curious about this. Okay, so Godzilla King of the Monsters, it opened up on, if I can get this damn thing to open, which it's not opening for me. Give me a second here. Okay, so Godzilla King of the Monsters, it opened up on May 31st, and I cannot, where the hell did they move their opening weekend? There we go. Okay, so it opened to $47 million. Godzilla versus Kong, maybe you're looking at 90 because of the height and the thing of this. What do you think, after seeing what it's done overseas, understanding that there are still a lot of people hesitant to go back to theaters, understanding that the theaters at reduced capacity, what do you think is a realistic, what would be a good number for Godzilla versus Kong under the current circumstances to open with in North America this week?
Well, I'm also looking right now at the Kong Skull Island opening, and its domestic opening here was $61,025,472.
Right.
So I would say somewhere between 40 to 50 million. If they could do that, because remember, these are at full capacity. So if they could do a 40 to 50 million opening weekend, that would, I think, be huge. I mean, these movies are not
huge.
They're not opening to Avengers Endgame numbers. No, and even this, if you look, the worldwide gross of Kong Skull Island was $500 million. It was $566 million, so $500 million and change. These films are not. They traditionally are not doing, because people have to remember, we're so used to hearing, well, $3 billion for Endgame. These Marvel movies and Joker are $1 billion. Well, most movies don't get to that.
Yeah. So,
and they don't cost as much either. So you have to look at the expectations of what these movies are. And I don't know what Gareth Edwards' Godzilla opened with, but
it was 40 something million.
It was 40 something. Yeah. You didn't look at in King of the Monsters. So you have to manage expectations. And I think that like 40 million for a new movie, not during the pandemic, I mean, that's okay, I guess, but we would expect more. I mean, I would expect Godzilla versus Kong should be the biggest of the MonsterVerse movies, of the 4 MonsterVerse films, because it's got an irresistible premise. And what they've shown us, who doesn't want to see that? If you're a movie fan or a kaiju fan, I mean, I don't know if my mom would roll out to see Godzilla versus Kong, but I think we, as grown man children, it's like, bring it on, man. So I think, who doesn't want to see this? People are talking about it. It's a crossover zeitgeist moment. Everyone's like, look at the hashtags, Team Godzilla, Team Kong. People are having fun with this. So I think this is like the perfect movie to get people out of the house. So I'm expecting, hey, if it did 40 to 50 million dollars, that would be huge. Huge.
So just for reference and context. So Christopher Nolan's Tenet opened overseas with 53 million. Godzilla versus Kong opened overseas with 122. Christopher Nolan's Tenet opened domestic box office of an opening weekend at $20 million, which, considering at when in the pandemic that happened, wasn't bad. So, you know what? You might be right, Rob. When you first said 40 million, I thought that might be overly optimistic, because that would roughly, put this into context. Think about this, guys. If Godzilla versus Kong can open at $40 million, which may still be unrealistic, maybe, but if it did,
yeah,
it would be opening to roughly the same numbers as Godzilla King of the Monsters did.
Yep.
Without limited capacity, without a pandemic, I mean, that would be crazy big. So, Rob, at first when you said 40 million, I thought it's completely unrealistic. But if Christopher Nolan's Tenet can make 20, maybe it can make that. Question is for you guys. What do you think would be a great opening weekend number? All things considered, we're still in the pandemic. We have limited capacity in theaters. What do you think would be a great number for? What do you think it's going to come in at? Jump on down to the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move into one more final main topic. We'll call it main topic number 5, although we don't have an email for this because technically this kind of was an off the top, but we decided to hold it off till last year. And that is this. Rob, we've known for a while that a long time, longer than we care to think about, but we've known that an Obi-Wan series is coming. It was already supposed to be done shooting by now, but they decided to go back, revamp a bunch of things, and come back out with it. Well, it is now. It's officially starting to shoot in the next couple of days. Disney put out a press release the other day talking about what is going on with the Obi-Wan series. Not only is it about to go into production, Rob, they announced the full cast, and it's impressive. It is a good cast. Let's take a look at this cast right now, shall we? We've got obviously we knew about Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen. A lot of people very excited that Hayden Christensen's coming back. We got Moses Ingram, who, of course, people just got their first. I mean, she's been around for a little bit. She hasn't been in a lot, but a lot of people got to watch her and appreciate her in the chess show with Anya Taylor-Joy. What was the name of the chess?
Queen's Gambit.
Queen's Gambit. Of course, they saw her in Queen's Gambit. The big news, though, Rob, Joel Edgerton is returning. There was a lot of speculation. We talked about it on this show. Joel Edgerton is returning as Uncle Owen. I love Joel Edgerton. I think this guy is great. And also, of course, returning with him is, I don't know how to pronounce her last name, Picey? Anyway, Bonnie Picey, who played Aunt Beru. She is, of course, coming back as well. Another big, I didn't know about this one, Kumail Nanjiani. This dude is blowing up. He's got Eternals coming. Now he's going to be in Obi-Wan. Love this dude. Of course, we talked a few weeks ago about Indira Varma, of course, from Game of Thrones. We already knew she was going to be in here. Hitman, Agent 47 himself, and actually a terrific actor, Rupert Friend, is coming. He's going to be in this as well. And then straight out of Compton's, O'Shea Jackson Jr. I'm excited about that. Of course, I think we're going to see him in Godzilla vs. Kong as well. Simone Kessel, I don't know much about her. Benny Safdie, dude, this guy is more of a director. He just directed with his brother Uncut Gems.
Yep.
He directed Good Time with Robert Pattinson, but he's going to be appearing in this thing as an actor. And there is one more guy. Rob, there's one more guy. Sung Kang. Justice for Han in the Star Wars universe is going to appear in this thing. Just to read off a little bit here from Variety, the Obi-Wan series at Disney Plus is preparing to begin production with the series, also adding several new cast members, and then they go on through class. They also confirmed, Rob, that this series will take place. We heard rumors about this. It is now official. The series takes place 10 years after the events of Revenge of the Sith. So 10 years after the events of Revenge of the Sith. That is the official time frame for the Obi-Wan series. Rob, you've heard about this. You see this cast lineup. It is a solid cast. What do you make of it, and what excites you most, even though I already know the answer to that?
Well, I mean, the obvious. I love that Sun Kang is in this. But I think this cast, it again, like The Mandalorian, it shows that the powers that be behind this show, I think, really know what Star Wars needs and what fans expect. And it just, the cast is so interesting and so eclectic and so good. Like, the actors are good actors. I just look at this and I'm thinking, this is going to be an A-list show. And you got Deborah Chow directing, whose work we loved in The Mandalorian. I just am excited about the level of quality that, and they've been developing an Obi-Wan standalone project for years. So I would assume that where this will live or die is in the writing. And I would just assume that this show is going to be first-rate, A-list, straight up and down awesome. And I am very excited about this show. Very excited.
Yeah, of course, the director, we mentioned that they brought on board. Great. She did such great work with Mandalorian. This is a good, strong supporting cast surrounding, of course, Ewan McGregor, who's going to lead this thing. Ewan McGregor, to me, is like, I feel like for a little while, people really did appreciate how good he was. And I feel like a lot of the general movie-going audience has forgotten just how good of an actor Ewan McGregor is. I think he's going to be great at leading this thing. So, guys, the question is for you. What do you think about this news? We've got Obi-Wan is now finally about to go into production. They have finalized the cast. We know officially the time period, all that kind of stuff. How are you feeling about this? Are you excited or do you not really care about it? Whatever it is you feel about it, jump on down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. By the way, guys, there is one piece of breaking news. There's a piece of breaking news here, Rob, that may not be tremendously exciting to a lot of people, but it is to me. We'll cover this more in depth tomorrow because this literally just came out in the last 15, 20 minutes. And that is this, Rob. My all-time favorite actor is going to be in Thor 4. Russell Crowe has joined Thor 4. He is, which again is giving us a 3:10 to Yuma reunion with Russell Crowe and Christian Bale. By the way, tremendously underrated film. More people need to see 3:10 to Yuma. Now, we'll go into more details on this tomorrow, but this is what we're getting from Deadline right now. They're saying Russell Crowe has joined the cast of Marvel's Thor: Love and Thunder, joining Chris Hemsworth, who is reprising his role as the God of Thunder, Natalie Portman, and Christian Bale, who will be playing the villain. The role is being kept under wraps, and the hope was to surprise fans with this fun cameo when the film was released. But following recent photos of Crowe hanging out with the cast all over Australia, Deadline has confirmed that he is in the movie. Insiders say Crowe is one of many surprises to come out of the film, with Matt Damon also confirmed to reprise his cameo from Thor Ragnarok. So that leads me to believe that we're probably talking about a cameo. Multiverse of Madness, Rob. He's playing Jor-El. That's it. It's official. MCU and the DCU are crossing over. Thor ends up on some random planet called Krypton. Whatever, what's left of it. Then he meets Jor-El. There we go. I honestly don't know, but the movie is well into production already, so I cannot imagine this is a significant role, right? It is well into production, so I can't imagine it's big, but just seeing him pop up in a cameo, I think is amazing. Again, he's not the greatest actor of all time. That's Daniel Day-Lewis, but he is my favorite actor. Rob, you hear about this? What are your first thoughts, and how big or small of a role do you think we're going to see out of him?
Well, dude, I hope that he's Maximus. If there truly is a multiverse, I would like to see that somewhere in the afterlife, Maximus was able to be reunited with his wife and son and lived a life. You know, they once talked about making a Gladiator sequel.
Yes,
where
they did.
the gods of Olympus would grant Maximus life again, which I'm like, I'd be there for that. But look, like you, I love Russell Crowe. And, the way he transforms physically for roles and just to have him, he belongs in this universe. I mean, look, he was great as Jor-El in Man of Steel. He was so good. And he can do no wrong in my book. Bring him on. I just hope he gets to kill a lot of people.
Well, of course, Russell Crowe as Jor-El was the very first hot toy I ever bought.
Yeah.
That was my first hot toy.
And a good hot toy it is.
It's a great hot toy. The face sculpt on that one is exceptional. So, again, I'm not sure, if this is going to be a Matt Damon style quick cameo. Maybe he's going to be part of the drama troupe. Maybe it is a more significant role, and they've just been really good at keeping it under wraps if he's been shooting for a number of weeks. I mean, of course, he is Australian, so it's no big deal that he's there. Anyway, question for you guys is, and we will cover this more in depth tomorrow once we're able to get more information. This is just breaking now, but just out of curiosity, what do you guys think about this Russell Crowe popping up? And again, I'm just very excited for a 3:10 to Yuma reunion. I really want to see Christian Bale and Russell Crowe on screen together. I hope that happens. Maybe it will. Maybe it won't. Guys, what do you think about this? Jump on down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Okay, guys. With all of that down and out of the way, we're now going to move on and start taking your live comments and questions here on the show. Once again, how do you get a live comment or question on the show? It's really simple. Simply use the tip link that's down in the description of this video, or you could enter it in manually at streamelements.com/movieblogtv/tip. You'll be getting your comment or question on the show if we deem it appropriate for the show. And of course, you'll be supporting the channel at the same time. And we, of course, thank you guys very, very much for that. Now, Rob, we had a lot of live questions get sent in over Thursday and Friday. And then, of course, a lot of people sent in questions over the weekend. So we are a little bit behind right now. So let's dive into it and start getting caught up just as quickly as we can, shall we? And we're going to get things started here with Dad Jokes, who writes, John, Wonder Woman went toe-to-toe with Superman for a short moment. Yes, she did. But I think it's clear she is nowhere near his level. She seemed even with Steppenwolf in battle while Superman destroyed him in seconds with no effort. She is the second strongest, but a far second. Yeah, I mean, I think that's an accurate depiction of the situation to me about how they're portraying them in the DCEU. Like in the DCEU, they're clearly portraying it Superman is the top of the food chain. And then I always interpret it the way they played it out, both in the theatrical and in Snyder Cut, that Wonder Woman's probably that next in line. Although Wonder Woman and Aquaman both fared fairly well individually against Steppenwolf, I think Wonder Woman is probably that next up there. Rob, how do you see them like portraying that in the movie versions?
Well, look, I mean, obviously, I think Superman is the GOAT, and yes, Superman is, I think, far more powerful than any other superhero. And Wonder Woman, you know, she's an Amazonian and imbued with the power of the gods, but she's nowhere near Superman's level.
All right.
I mean, I think it's clear.
All right, next up, Wakanda Forever writes, wow, John, love the new co-host. Probably talking about Kimberly Curran. When she came on screen, you disappeared. LOL. Wakanda loves Kimberly. I have HBO Max, and Godzilla vs. Kong and Mortal Kombat are both coming out on streaming for free. I feel silly, but I want to see them in theaters. Oh, no. If you're a real film fan, you wanted to see this on the big screen. I mean, it's not going to be possible for everybody, depending where you live and what's going on in your community and wherever it is you live. It may not be possible to do that, so you watch it any way you can. But there is no way in hell. I got offered a screener of Godzilla vs. Kong, and I had to straight up just tell them, not interested. Not interested. I'm seeing this thing in a theater. I'm seeing this thing proper. I'm seeing this thing on a screen where I get to see Godzilla like lording over the sides of everything and Kong swinging, lording over everything and saying, no effing way. I'm watching this on a TV screen. No effing way. Rob, I don't know if you heard me talk about this, but I was very excited about seeing Nobody. Universal offered me this chance to go to Universal's lot and watch Nobody, but it was going to be outside in a drive-in format that they were going to show it. And then they offered me, it's like, and then we'll video record you doing like one of the stunts in the movie with the actual stunt team from the movie and blah, blah, blah. And I said, dude, I am so honored. That's great. It sounds like a lot of fun, but I ain't coming because I'm looking forward to this movie. And I want the first time I see it not to be in an outdoor projected kind of questionable quality sort of thing. I want to see this thing for the first time on a real movie screen. And so I turned it down, even though it sounded like a lot of fun. And I'm glad I did because it was an excellent experience. There ain't no way in hell, since I'm capable and I'm going to be vaccinated too, that I am watching Mortal Kombat or Godzilla for the first time on some effing loser TV. I am seeing this thing on the big screen as it's intended to be seen. And again, not everybody has that option. Not everybody has that option. That's cool. But for me, I do have the option, and I am damn well doing it. I am damn well doing it, Rob. I'm so excited about this. All right, let's move on here. Next up, Mr. Graham91 writes, hey, John and Co. I always wonder why people and media advertise, see this movie in IMAX. Incredible in IMAX. Although, isn't Dolby Cinema better than IMAX? Maybe IMAX is slightly bigger ratio, but that's it. Dolby sound is better and picture quality is better as well. Well, I think, here's the thing, Mr. Graham, and Rob, tell me what you think about this. I think sometimes IMAX is literally paying for that endorsement. See it in IMAX. Like that's often they're paying for that to be played. But I think, you know, there are some movies like Godzilla versus Kong where you just want to see it on the biggest screen possible. You know, there are movies that don't need to be in IMAX. There are movies that don't need the absolute biggest screen possible. But you're talking about like Mortal Kombat or Godzilla versus Kong or something like that. I think that's just kind of the de facto going to thing to say, see it in IMAX then. Now, look, as far as which is better, that's up to individual preference. Rob, I know a lot of people, they prefer not the LIMAX, but the true IMAX experience is like their favorite movie experience. For me personally, it is the AMC Dolby Cinema. That's my personal favorite, just image quality and sound and all that kind of stuff. But there's not one is clearly better than the other. They're two different experiences, and it's up to individual taste. Rob, I think you're one of the guys that really does prefer, like, nothing's better to you than a really good pure IMAX experience. How would you address that?
Yes, I mean, that's true, but not all movies are obviously in IMAX. And when we went and saw Joker at that AMC theater with the Dolby Theater, that was it was amazing presentation. The picture, the sound, razor sharp quality, the sound's amazing. So it really, to me, it depends on the movie. So if the movie itself is going to give you, like the way Christopher Nolan shot some of the Dark Knight and then his later movies, he would add more and more IMAX scenes. I loved the changing aspect ratio, watching that happen in the theater. And again, one of my greatest movie-going experiences ever was sitting in the Chinese theater, which is a converted regular theater that was converted to IMAX, but the picture and sound are great. When I saw Blade Runner 2049 on a Tuesday afternoon, I was like one of 3 or 4 people in this gigantic world-famous theater. It was so loud, and the projection was so great. It was like I had a 2.5-hour orgasm watching that movie. The presentation was so incredible. I to this day, and it depends on the movie. The movie has to go with the right theater.
I agree. Now, I see some people in the live chat asking what's the difference. Well, what is exceptional about the Dolby Cinema experiences, particularly at AMC Prime, is that they use what's called a dual laser projection system, where they use 2 lasers to project it. And I remember the first time they showed this off at CinemaCon. It basically enhances, it's a sharper image, all that kind of stuff, but it gives a much richer dynamic range. And so I'll never forget this, Rob. The first demonstration they did of it was there was this pitch black screen, and then these words come out, "Yes, the projector is on." And everybody gasped because all these theater industry professionals had never seen blacks that dark on a screen. And so when they just thought it was still off. And then when the words came on, "Yes, the screen is on," we're like, wait, what? And then they were playing it. It is insanely beautiful. But again, you're right, Rob. They each offer different sets of strengths, and it's a movie to movie thing. I am normally a Dolby Cinema guy, but for Godzilla versus Kong, I kind of want it on the biggest screen possible. So that's why I'm sneaking into an IMAX. All right, let's move on here. Bucky Rocks writes, I have a different take on Snyder Cut power level. I knew immediately the Steppenwolf was either powered down from Whedon's version, or both Aquaman and Wonder Woman were powered up. They were having a way more difficult time handling Steppenwolf in every Whedon fight. I don't know that I agree with that. I mean, in both the theatrical version, Rob, unless I'm not remembering it right, in both the theatrical version and in the Snyder Cut that ended up being out, there were those scenes of, Wonder Woman doing her bracelet clash, boom, and sending Steppenwolf flying. The first time Aquaman encounters Steppenwolf in Atlantis, him giving Steppenwolf that shot, Steppenwolf goes flying across. How you go flying across in the water, I'm not sure, but whatever. He hits him flying across the water, Steppenwolf slamming into the thing. I thought they both acquitted themselves very well in both versions. Am I just not remembering that right? How do you remember that?
No, I think you are remembering it right. I think you remember. By the way, the Chinese theater is opening today.
I didn't know that.
It's opening today, and you know what they're showing in IMAX? Tenet.
Ooh.
I might have to go. I'm like,
That would be tempting.
It's playing at 4 p.m. and 8 p.m. today.
That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I know. I'm like,
Honestly, guys, if you're ever in LA and things are back to normal, if you have not visited the iconic Chinese theater, it's been renovated, it's been updated a lot, but it is still majestic. It is absolutely majestic. And just knowing that you're in the theater, this is where Star Wars premiered in 1977. And you're in that same spot that they were at. There's a sense of history in there. If you get a chance, if you're ever in LA and you're visiting, make sure you take a pit stop and go and see something at the Chinese theater. All right, next up. The Wakandan Forever writes, movies in 20 minutes. Superheroes. Okay, John, you don't like Meteor Man. Black Panther coming for me is too obvious. Dread 2012, so too early. Not popular enough. Unbreakable 2020. Unbreakable wouldn't be a bad one to do as a movies in 20 minutes. It checks all the boxes. It's great. Not as many people have seen it over 20 years in the past. Unbreakable is not a bad recommendation. I'll have to put that one on the list. That's actually a good recommendation, Wakanan. Rick Hunter 100 writes, movie recommendations. Invasion, aka top of the food chain, a tongue-in-cheek spoof of the 1950s sci-fi from early 2000s. Stars Campbell Scott and Tom Everett Scott. Good Canadian film. I saw at the Seattle International Film Festival. I've been to the Seattle International Film Festival. DVD on Amazon for cheap. I will tell you right now, I am not familiar with Invasion. Rob, are you familiar with this? I'm not at all.
Is Invasion the remake of Invasion the Body Snatchers with Nicole Kidman and Daniel Craig?
No, like I said, it's this is a tongue-in-cheek spoof of the 1950s sci-fi from early. Yeah, I'm not familiar with it.
I don't know it.
All right, but Rick Ender, I'll keep it on my radar. All right, next up. We've got Luke1234 writes, studio question. Your mic is the Rode Procaster. Yes, it is. And you've had it for some time. Have you noticed any downsides to it? And would you buy it again? I ask because I'm contemplating between the Rode Pod Mic, $100, Rode Procaster, $230, and the SM7B, $400. All right, so I do use the Rode Procaster mic. This is a mic. The first time I bought these mics was when we built our studio for AMC. These were the mics that I got, and I have been in love with these microphones. I love these microphones. I have like 4 of them in my studio, even though at most I ever use is 2. But for whatever reason, I have 4 of them. They're fantastic. But here's the reality. If the pod mics had been out, if the Rode pod mics had been out when I moved solo and I was building my own home studio, I probably would have bought those. They sound great, Rob. Those Rode pod mics, they're a little bit stumpier, but they sound wonderful. And for $100, here's the thing, unless you are a full-time pro, if you do your EQing right, you can EQ. I've seen many videos where people take a pod mic and EQ it in such a way where it's almost indistinguishable from the Shure SM7B. It's almost indistinguishable. A lot of people just buy the Shure SM7B because it's a status symbol. It's like, that's what Joe Rogan uses. That's what a lot of these big timers use, right? Honestly, 95% of your YouTube viewing audience does not know the difference, would not be able to understand or discern a difference between a Rode pod mic that's EQ'd properly and the Shure SM7B. Good audiophiles would be able to tell a little bit of a difference. But honestly, unless you have to have it and it's your full-time career and it's all that, I would honestly recommend the Rode pod mic. It's a really good mic. And don't get me wrong, I don't regret having these. There are no drawbacks to the Rode Procaster. These mics are fantastic. They're built like tanks, excellent audio quality. But if you're just looking to invest some money, get the pod mic, man. It's reviewed very, very well. You should check it out. Okay, let's move on here. Next up, where are we at? By the way, I should mention this. I haven't decided on a day yet, but next week, I'm thinking maybe Tuesday evening. I get a lot of people do write into me and ask about YouTubing and podcasting, philosophical approaches, technical advice, technical know-how, equipment, things like that. I believe next Tuesday in the evening, I'm going to do an open stream about YouTubing. So if you have questions about practices or about equipment or about tech or about software or about whatever, I'm going to do a full evening, like open discussion where you guys can send in any questions you want about, all that kind of stuff. And I will address all of those then. I'm sure that won't be of interest to many of you, but for those of you who are, we're going to do that. Should be fun. So yes, come on down, and Tuesday, we will cover that on Tuesday. Okay. Let's get back to the questions now. Brandon writes, Some hashtag Restore the Snyderverse supporters have floated a theory that all the DC news in the last couple of days, Zatanna, Pierce, Brosnan, the Suicide Squad, etc., is trying to drown out the Snyder Cut and their movement. Do you think that's true? I think you have to be a special kind of moron to think that. Timothy writes, I hope you read this when Aaron is there. No, Aaron's not here, unfortunately. I know she is a part of the new Will Smith movie because Aaron was going to be on Friday, but she wasn't here Friday either because I can't tell you why she wasn't here on Friday, but I hope I get to tell you soon. Anyway, I hope you read this when Aaron is there. I know she's part of the new Will Smith movie that also includes John Bernthal. Did she ever meet John? And if so, what was he like? He seems like such a super nice guy and down to earth, at least in his interviews. I honestly don't know. She never mentioned to me that she had met Bernthal. He does seem like a really cool guy. He seems like he's always come across as that. And whenever I've seen interviews with him, he seems like a very down to earth, grounded guy. But I will specifically ask her if she had any scenes with John Bernthal. I think almost all of her scenes were with Will Smith, but I will double check with her and see what she says about that. All right. The Marvel Detective writes, hey, John, you mentioned before how much you like the story of Last of Us 2, with there being consequences to one's actions. So I was wondering, do you think there will be similar consequences with Hawkeye in the MCU? Rob, that's not a bad question, because one of the things that I do love about the Last of Us 2 story, which I think is just the best narrative we've ever seen in a video game, I think it's really incredible, but is that there are consequences to things you do. You know, we always watch these video games where you're the hero and you're going around killing 500 guys, but you never think about, that one guy who was just driving the car for the bad guy. He had a family. He had a brother, and he had a son, and he had a wife, and he had parents that loved him, and he had a whole life. And there's a family now around that one guy who see you, the hero, as the most evil, vile person in the world who took their loved one away from them. And there are going to be repercussions to that. And I love how, Last of Us 2 did that. They said, okay, yeah, we saw Last of Us and we saw Joel and Ellie running around and killing all these guys. What happens when the family of those people put their targets on you? You're the villain. And I love that. And you're right. Hawkeye, when we meet Hawkeye again in Endgame, he's going around the world killing a lot of people. And it's not just the crime lords, it's all the people who are around him and with them. So I don't know, maybe there will be, but Rob, it seems like we have had a lot of that in comic book movies. Like, even if you go back to Tim Burton's Batman, right? Joker was a repercussion of Batman's actions in that movie. There's been other examples of that. Do you think that's the direction they could go with this Hawkeye show?
I think they could. I think they might touch upon that. I think it's certainly a valid direction. By the way, speaking of video games, during this show, guess what was delivered to my house?
I do not know.
A PlayStation 5.
Oh, I've been trying to get one for a while. Oh, I'm pretty envious. I've been trying to get my hands on one. I just have not been able to get one.
Thanks to a viewer, I won't use their name, but somebody who watches my channel and this channel was able to facilitate that and got me one.
That's awesome, man. I'm very jealous. I am very jealous. All right, let's move on here. Sempaigar. Is it Sempaigar writes? Yes. Sempaigar writes, I still find myself rewatching the trailers for Mortal Kombat and the Batman. I love those trailers and really enjoy the music. Having that edit of Something in the Way by Nirvana was awesome and fits so well. Can't wait to see these movies. Yeah, listen, the trailers for the Batman, especially when you consider it was a first trailer, was great. Just gave us a tease, gave us a little taste for a movie that was still very far off. But it was a lot of fun. The Mortal Kombat trailer is fantastic. The Godzilla vs. Kong trailer is the best trailer I've seen since the Logan trailer. They've really been cranking it up lately with the quality of the trailers. They really have. All right, thanks, Sempaigar. He also writes, one of my favorite cartoons ever is Regular Show. It's so funny and nostalgic. A raccoon named Rigby and a blue jay named Mordecai. Also features Mark Hamill as Skips, Carl Weathers as the god of basketball, Linda Cardinelli, Hawkeye's wife, as CJ. I know Ray has watched that show. I never have. My brother-in-law, Ray, I know he's even got a bunch of collectible stuff for Regular Show. I have never watched it myself. I don't know, Rob, have you ever watched that?
Never have.
Yeah, neither
I've
have I.
never
So I
watched
can't speak to it, but I know my brother-in-law Ray, who's probably watching right now, he really does enjoy the one. He's talked about it before. All right, next up, we've got Bojax who writes, "Hey John, one of two. I'm really going to miss Superman and Lois while it's on hiatus. I didn't even know it was on hiatus till the other day. Episode 5 might be my favorite so far. I love seeing Clark so giddy over the festival and chocolate bacon. I also enjoyed seeing young Clark with Martha. There are two scenes that stood out for me. Number one, Lois saying how the festival taught Clark about giving and helping people in need. And number two was the Martha Park bench, instant tear. Anyway, this is the first Superman thing where I've been more excited to see Clark than Superman." Yeah, that, you know what, Rob, that's a good way to put it. I am as equally into seeing Clark in this show as I am seeing Superman.
Yeah.
And I got to admit, even my all-time favorite, who I got him standing right here, Henry Cavill as Superman, I am into seeing him as Superman. This, yeah, I think it's a good way to put it. I actually look forward just as much to seeing Tyler Holkin, however you pronounce his name, as Clark Kent. And you're right, it does that. Is that the feeling you, and have you caught up? Are you up on all 5 episodes in this?
I've watched 4 of the episodes.
Okay, so you haven't seen episode 5 yet.
I'm really enjoying it. I mean, I think the idea of Superman with sons and family matters is interesting. And I know some people want to see like more, I don't know, action but I like the show, dude, far more than I thought I was going to. And I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah, me too. All right, next up, we got Paul Mamer who, 1 of 10. Okay, buckle up, guys. Here we go. "Hey, John, love the show. Thank you so much, Paul. Started listening about a month ago and I'm hooked. Well, it's good to have you here, man. Feels like I've found my tribe. I appreciate how thoughtful, respectful, reserved for the most part. Yeah, sometimes I'm not so reserved. And positive you always are. I used to run a theater north of Saskatoon. I used to live in Saskatoon. And I worked at a Blockbuster there. I love the movies and the industry. I'm a big fan of DC. I did watch WandaVision and I liked it, but I mainly watched it to keep up with the John Campea Show as it dominated the discussion. Here's my thoughts on Zack Snyder's Justice League. Justice League, people commenting in abbreviations and code, Zack Snyder's Justice League, people commenting in regular sentences. Soups doesn't always wear the black suit because it wasn't needed. He's been indestructible until he died. It would be like cops wearing riot gear all day long. I disagree with that because it's the same costume. Cops wearing riot gear, there's a big drawback to wearing riot gear. The black costume, there's no drawback to wearing that. So anyway, that's my thought on that. Force equals Max X. Flash had to be careful, mistaken for creepy. With everything he touches, we don't need a 2-minute slow-mo for every person he saves. But for the first time he meets Iris, sure, Justice League was supposed to intro a solo Flash movie, which was, I think, a mistake. You don't use a movie to intro another movie. That whole meeting Iris thing should have been a scene saved for a different movie. That didn't, in a movie that was 4 hours long, that was a scene that just didn't need to be there. That was a scene that would have been better suited for the Flash movie. How about you have the Flash and Iris meet in the Flash movie? I know, that was just me. 5 of 10. Zack Snyder's Justice League would have bombed at the theater. I completely agree. The theater owners would have to either start the first show at 3 p.m. in order to have a second show at 8 p.m. and close at 1 a.m. or forego a second show altogether and miss out on concessions. Impossible. Completely agree with that, Paul. I agree. There's 0 chance of continuing Zack Snyder's Justice League. I don't think there's 0% chance of continuing. Again, look, I say it a lot, but we are in a world where Jamie Foxx is coming back as Electro. So while I believe it is improbable, I don't think you can say it's 0. I just don't think you can say it's 0 in the world we live in today. Anyway, I disagree with your sentiment that Warner Brothers is having more success without Zack. Every opening weekend for a DCU movie has been smaller than the last since Batman vs. Superman. Rotten Tomato scores don't equal box office receipts there. Well, okay, but here's the problem, Paul. Which Zack Snyder movie made, I can't remember, Rob, which Zack Snyder movie made $1 billion?
Oh, wait, let me think. None.
None. Oh, that's right. None. But they've had 2 post Zack Snyder that made $1 million. Which Zack Snyder film won an Academy Award?
Oh, none, John.
I'm fairly sure. Maybe there was a technical award on one of them, whatever. But, Joker is winning, these awards. Wonder Woman, was a smash success with the critics and everything. They've had box office success. And again, none of this is reflects negatively in Zack Snyder. It's just that to say that they have not seen better results post Zack Snyder is factually incorrect. Not everything has done super well. Like Shazam was awesome, but it's not like Shazam blew up the box office or anything like that. It didn't. But and Birds of Prey, I didn't like that movie. It's like only like it was the first DCU movie I didn't even like was Birds of Prey. But I mean, to say that they haven't had bigger successes, like including Academy Awards, billion-dollar films, huge critical receptions, they've definitely enjoyed more success post that, but that's not a negative reflection on Zack Snyder at all, though. Superman commits acts of interspecies erotica. Well, yeah, nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with a little bit of interspecies erotica. Lois bangs an undead. Aquaman communicates with his food. Cyborg can see every nude selfie on the earth. Well, yes, but they don't show him looking at every nude selfie. He just has the ability to do it. He just doesn't do it. Wonder Woman bags a dude under wish hypnosis. Flash touches a girl's cheek. Creep. Come on, John. Well, I think you comparing those situations. If we saw Cyborg actually going through everybody's nude selfies, yes, that would be creepy. But he didn't do that, did he? And I'm not going to get into all the other scenarios because we've already addressed all those other ones. Paul Mamer continues to write, somebody mentioned winning the lottery and giving Warner Brothers $400 million for Justice League 2 and 3. You stated that no way would that work. No. Okay, listen, this is what drives me crazy, Rob. This is what drives me crazy. I get it. We live in a Twitter generation where everybody can't think any longer than 140 characters. I get that. But I was very careful in how I explained that situation. And I did not say that there was no way that could ever work. No, I said it's improbable. I said because of this, and this, but it is not impossible. They could look at it this, but right. It just reminds me of like, again, the Joss Whedon with the Justice League thing. It's like, I was very careful. People wonder why I sometimes will repeat myself, why I will go on describing something, because this always happens. Like this is just like the Joss Whedon thing. I go on to express that, listen, you take almost any other director and you put them in a situation where you say, take this 4-hour movie, cut it in half, do this, none of this, you get none of this, and you get no extra time. We're keeping the same release date. Go. I said, under those circumstances, most directors never would have been able to deliver that movie. So Joss Whedon saved Justice League because it just never would have, most directors never would have got that movie across the finish line. But what happens? Then some moron just here, Joss Whedon saved, like as if I was saying that Joss Whedon saved it from Zack Snyder. And that's not what I said. I said I was very, very clear. I was very clear. So again, this is just frustrating to me when I put in the effort to make something very clear about what I'm saying, and then it gets reduced to, you stated that there was no way that could work. I didn't say there was no way it could work, but anyway. But what if that occurred in 2033 when Superman and Batman's copyrights run out? First of all, DC will never they're going to pull the same thing Disney does with their characters. They will never run out. Those copyrights, they will never let those copyrights run out. They will lobby Congress. Disney has done it for generations. They will do it. There is no way they will ever let those copyrights run out. I want theaters to thrive. I was upset at the HBO Max theater rollout. With streaming services and a shortened theatrical window, I am worried. Maybe after vaccines, people will go back to theaters and we'll have a nice half-year bump, but long-term, I'm not sure. Do you have any insider knowledge of how theater chain subscription services were doing business-wise? Did AMC A-List make money, or does it run at an initial loss to gain subscribers? Thank you for your filthy thoughts. Well, that's a really interesting topic, Paul, because this was one of the things that, Rob, you and I have talked about this, that when the pandemic hit, it could not have hit at a worse time, particularly for AMC theaters. Because the pandemic hit when AMC theaters had just hit the end of their massive expenditures. They acquired a bunch more movie theaters. They spent billions in upgrading their movie theaters, putting in the leather reclining seats, better screens, better projectors, all that kind of stuff. And they had done basically a 2-year rollout that they spent billions on for AMC A-List. And they had just started, AMC A-List had well ahead of schedule, had started actually turning a profit. AMC A-List, their subscription service was now actually making them money. And as all of that was happening at the right point, at the perfect storm, all the expenditures, the theaters, the new seating, the AMC A-list expenditures, and just as AMC A-list was starting to make money, the pandemic hit. And AMC was standing there with their dick in their hands as they were like, we're $5 billion in debt. We just spent all this money thinking we were about to make a lot of money, and now we are royally effed. And it was horrible. But yes, AMC A-List did start to turn a profit for them. It was probably one of the most successful programs they ever did, Paul. And it was really starting to work. And Rob, you and I have talked about how it's not just AMC, like the entire movie theater industry is in the midst of going through its most significant metamorphosis in the history of the movie theater industry, transitioning from a single-use pay service, buy a ticket, see a movie, to a monthly subscription model service. Mm-hmm. And it was showing it. Do you think that as the pandemic starts to clear up, can that get back on track, do you think, or is that now a lost cause?
No, I'm glad to see people returning back to the movie theaters. And I think the subscription model or the membership model, the pass model, I think it's going to come back because it was working, John. And it was the kind of thing where, you know, if you're a moviegoer that goes to the movies 3 or 4 times a month, it made sense. And I think once movies are coming back into theaters and we have 3 or 4 movies we want to go see every month, it's a great thing to have, especially if you live close to a movie theater. And so I think, again, we will come out of this. And at first, I got to say, I wasn't optimistic necessarily that this would happen, but I'm more optimistic now. I think we might come back to pre-COVID conditions, which means that the AMC A-List will be back where it used to be, which is great.
And of course, we've got the other theaters. Regal has their Unlimited. Cinemark has their program. Alamo Drafthouse, which is going to try to find a way to get out of bankruptcy.
Yeah.
They introduced their own subscription service as well. And I think it could be a very, very major thing for that, Paul. And I think, Paul, you raise a really great topic because I think the whole move, if the theaters survive the pandemic and all that kind of stuff, I don't think it's an exaggeration, Rob, to say it'll be because they had already begun that shift over to that monthly subscription model.
Yes.
And so, Paul, I think you're bang on the money about that, and I think that's an even more relevant thing than you might think. So well said, sir. Well said. Thanks for writing that in, man. I appreciate it. All right, next up, Greg Scott Bailey writes, 1 of 2. I skipped ahead to Avengers Endgame. I've been doing the MCU rewatch. Got to the portal scenes, and it still pumps me up, despite Assemble. I really wish they did something like having everyone walk through, not coordinated and looking around. Then have Doctor Strange do a vocal enhancement spell where Steve's voice is projected across the field. Avengers, assemble! Then everybody forms up, and then Mjolnir flies into Cap's hand. But alas, LOL. You know, Rob, I make fun of a lot. That one scene in Avengers, I do make fun a lot of the fact that there's this huge open battlefield, and Captain America, now that he was getting ready to fight Thanos and his entire army by himself, which is like one of the most iconic images I've ever seen. But then everybody comes through the portals and he's Avengers. And then of course, assemble, like really, really whisper quiet, right? But this is the one, and we've talked about this before, Rob, the thing that never fails to make me laugh whenever I watch Avengers Endgame and we get to that last scene, from how ridiculous it is okay, Ant-Man and Wasp Wasp has been snapped out of existence, right? She'd been out of existence. Half of them had been out of existence. They just all now show up. And somehow, all of them have magical earpiece communication devices. There's this one shot where, like, I think it was Cap who presses his ear. Does anybody have eyes on, I can't remember who it was they were looking for, Peter Parker or something. Does anybody have eyes on the van or something? Does anybody have eyes in the van? And immediately Wasp is, we're on it, Cap. She hits her earpiece. I'm like, when the fuck did she get a walkie-talkie? She's been out of existence for 5 years. Like, did Doctor Strange, before he opened the portals, go walking around, did him and Wong walk around the big basket? Hand, here's your earpieces, everybody. Get them secured or we won't be able to talk to each other. I just laugh every time I see that. Rob, let me ask you, I know you love Endgame, but I mean,
I love Endgame.
If there's any part of that makes you go, oh my gosh, that's a little silly as a part of that whole Endgame sequence, what one stands out to you?
Well, I mean, look, as far as if you're in costume, if you're in your costume as a hero, I would assume that it's standard issue to have those communicators, those earpieces of some kind. And they had standardized that. We just didn't see it. I mean, I assume that they did. But
Wasp was never an Avenger. Wasp was never with having communication.
No, but I mean, there's no reason why they wouldn't. She wasn't an Avenger, but with Ant-Man being part or involved in the Avengers, maybe Stark Tech just issued everybody these comms in case you needed them, for whatever reason.
But her costume wasn't Stark Tech.
No, I know, but I mean they're these, everybody just ordered them and got them as part. I mean, I don't know. It's something I could believe that tech existed because, if you're wearing a helmet, you need some way to talk to each other. Like Ant-Man and Wasp, one day Ant-Man could have been like, hey, babe, I got these Stark made these things. Why don't you throw one in your helmet?
All right. Let's move on here. That? Next up, we've got, who is up? Okay, next up is Andrew, who writes, Ciao, John. The streaming views from Soundboard TV between Wonder Woman 84 and Zack Snyder's Justice League first reported and compared to the Friday to Saturday weekend. They already corrected this. 27th, Wonder Woman 21st. It seems like they haven't included the views from the release date on the 18th of March. They did. They did put out a statement after that to say they did clarify that because the original report incorrectly said they started counting the numbers from the Friday. They did indeed count those numbers. An anonymous viewer writes, Ciao, John. I'm assuming it's Andrew as well. From April 11th, HBO will release the TV series The Nevers, created by Joss Whedon. Did you have the chance to watch the new trailer? What are your thoughts? I fear this might be the last Whedon show in quite a long time. Thank you. Well, I mean, we haven't had a Whedon show in over a decade, I don't think. With all the stuff coming out, with a lot of the former cast from Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which I find very disturbing, it could be a very long time, if ever, that we see Joss Whedon do a show again. That aside is an issue for another time. The trailer was great. I thought it was great. I don't know why they didn't just call it The Touched. I mean, everything about that. Did you see that trailer, by the way, Rob? The Nevers trailer?
Yeah, it looks really interesting.
Yeah, I thought it looked great. I just don't know why they're calling it The Nevers instead of calling, because everything in that trailer was The Touched, The Touched, The Touched.
Right.
It's like, why didn't they just call it that? But I thought it looked great. Your thoughts?
I thought it looked fantastic. I mean, really interesting premise, really new take on the whole world, supernatural beings. And I'm like, what's not to love? And it looks like it's beautifully made.
Yeah, it does look gorgeous. For a period piece, it looks really, really gorgeous. We'll see how that show turns out. All right, next up, we've got Matt McClure writes, John, I know you and Ann are wrestling fans. Ann's more of a wrestling fan than me. Have you guys checked out AEW at all? And what are your thoughts? All Elite Wrestling. It's amazing. Goldust. Goldust's brother. Cody Rhodes, a professional. This is an interesting story. Professional wrestler Cody Rhodes, who comes from a wrestling family. His father was one of the all-time legendary wrestlers, the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. His older brother is Dustin Rhodes, who was Goldust. And anyway, Cody is a great wrestler in and of himself. He decided to start his own wrestling company. And I'll say this, I've sat with Ann and Corey to watch some AEW. The wrestling itself is actually better than it is in WWE. Like they don't have the polish, they don't have the storylines and stuff like that they do in WWE, but the pure wrestling itself is really, really exceptional. Like really, really good. So yeah, I was impressed with it. All right, Ryan Lohner writes, as I write this on March 26th, which was of course Friday's show, Leonard Nimoy would have turned 90 today. He was just 4 days younger than Shatner. Rob, I know you had the distinct pleasure of actually directing William Shatner in a movie. Did you ever have a chance to meet Leonard Nimoy?
Oh, yes. Yes.
You did?
I went to Leonard Nimoy's house. We made a 70th birthday video for Shatner after we made Free Enterprise. And we asked Leonard to be in it, and he invited us to his house. And what was really funny about him, his house was beautiful. His wife Susan's beautiful, beautifully appointed, gorgeous art on the walls. And one of the things I loved about this is that amidst all of this beauty, he had a beautifully framed Zombies of the Stratosphere poster, which was a thing he appeared in the 50s, you know, a very kind of a cheesy B movie. But he had that poster. He honored his own career. You would have thought that that wouldn't have held a place of honor in his house, but it did amidst all his gorgeous art and everything. And it showed me everything I needed to know about him as a person, because he still honored his past and would put up a Zombies of the Stratosphere poster amidst all of his beautiful art. He was really a wonderful guy.
And by the way,
terrific guy.
If you want to see the greatest, and I mean greatest, music video of all time, if you have not seen it, go on YouTube and search for Leonard Nimoy, Bilbo Baggins. Just search for Leonard Nimoy, Bilbo Baggins, strap yourself in, and be prepared for the greatest music video of all time. I'm not kidding. Go look it up. All right, next up. Matthew Carter writes, "Oh my God, John, there was a black super soldier and they locked him up for 30 years in a lab and broke his spirit. And the cop scene, wow, I did not expect Marvel to tackle this issue so effectively. Are we going to have multiple seasons? Because this show is amazing." Well, you know, Rob, we've talked about this. It seems like most of the shows Marvel or Disney Plus is doing with Marvel are intended and they're labeling as limited series.
Yeah.
Out of all of them, though, Falcon and Winter Soldier really does feel like a series that could be an ongoing series. This feels like you could easily do we'll see how this show ends, but it feels like a show that you could do a season 2, season 3. What do you think?
Well, I think so too. I mean, we've only had one episode where we see them interacting, and I was really enjoying their chemistry and everything. And I like that they're delving into Marvel series like The Truth. That's where that black super soldier came from. And I'm really, really interested to see where it's going to go. But yeah, I would watch the two of them. I mean, it was a lot of fun watching them, especially when they went into battle. That truck sequence was amazing.
All right, next up,
great.
We've got one from an anonymous viewer who writes, "John, on The Nice Guys, it had two actors that should bring multiple generational appeal, one which you and others note was exceptional. I must admit, I never saw it. Is this an instance of poor marketing, either quantity, quality, or type?" So, Rob, this Nice Guys came up the other day. Of course, directed by Shane Black, starring Russell Crowe and Ryan Gosling. As to me, The Nice Guy, and nobody saw it. Nobody saw it. To me, The Nice Guys, and we talked about this the other day, is the poster child movie of whenever I hear people, like when a new sequel or reboot gets mentioned, people say, Hollywood doesn't make anything original anymore. That's factually incorrect. Hollywood makes more original film today than it ever has in the history of the medium. Here's the problem. They put out all this original stuff and you don't support it. And the poster child for that is The Nice Guys, because The Nice Guys is an amazing movie. It is so fun, so well done. It had huge, big, recognizable names, Ryan Gosling, Russell Crowe. They got terrific chemistry. It's fun. It's funny. It's entertaining. And the problem wasn't the marketing was incredible. I remember I was still at AMC at the time when that came out, and like we were doing like trailer reviews of it. It's like these trailers are great.
Yeah.
But people didn't support it because it wasn't something they recognized. It wasn't a franchise. It wasn't a whatever. And that to me is the poster child or the counterpoint to that. But anyway, Rob, when you look back at The Nice Guys, other than the fact that it wasn't part of a franchise, it wasn't a sequel, it wasn't a recognizable IP, what do you have anything else that you kind of put your finger on? Is that maybe the movie could have done better if this, or this?
No, I mean, I was surprised. Obviously, it's another Shane Black movie, and I really loved Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. And then he did Iron Man 3 and then followed up with The Nice Guys before he did Predator. But
Predator was a disappointment.
I mean, I loved it. It was so much fun. It was like a movie we haven't seen in a while. And, the movie-going audience has sort of changed over the last decade. And I was surprised that The Nice Guys didn't do better than it did. But unfortunately, that's, I guess, the world we live in.
Yep, you can have the worst movie in the world and have it make $1 billion. You can have the best movie in the world and have it barely crawl under people's radars. I mean, it happens. Anyway, Rob, we've kept you overtime here again. And is today the day that does Dota release on Netflix today? Is that when
it released Friday?
Oh, it released Friday.
Thursday.
It's out already.
So it's out. You can see it. It was like number 7 in Germany. So of all the things on Netflix, so it's doing the response has been pretty great.
Robert Meyer Burnett and David Hasselhoff. Those are the people that the Germans love. The Germans love Hasselhoff and Robert Meyer Burnett. Rob, thanks for being here, man. In the meantime, where can people follow you and your adventures online?
You can find me on Instagram at Robert Meyer Burnett. Find me on Twitter at BurnettRM, or find me on my own YouTube channel, The Burnett Work.
All right, dude. Thanks a lot for being here, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow, my friend. Have a good one.
All right, I'll see you later.
Ladies and gentlemen, the great Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett. But listen, guys, we still have some time here, so let's keep right on rolling with your questions. We're going to pick things up now here with Garden Variety Vagabond, who writes, 1 of 2. I get tired of attacking the theatrical version of Justice League versus the Snyder Cut. I personally prefer most aspects of the director's cut, but the reality is that things have to be adjusted to get down to 2 hours. First, it was a bad decision to cut that much. Oh, it's a terrible decision. We talked about that yesterday. But to cut that much sadly requires losing some great scenes, either for length or continuity after you cut other scenes. You cut it in half and then have to add connective tissue to make it work without all those scenes. Release the 3 hour and 20-minute Campea cut. Yeah, there's that. I mean, here's the other thing, is that once they decided that not only did they want to cut Justice League in half, that they weren't going to do any of the follow-up films after that, so they had to take out all the scenes that referenced upcoming movies. So they had to take all those out. It was just, again, on yesterday's companion video, I talked about Warner Brothers had 5 options available to them about what to do about Zack Snyder and the Justice League movie. They had 5 options. 4 of those options, none of them were ideal, but 4 of those options had potential upsides and would have been acceptable decisions to make. There was only 1 out of the 5 options that was completely a no-win, bad decision to do. And that's the one they went with. And I was right at the beginning of yesterday's companion video. If you want to see me talk about that, load up yesterday's companion video and you can go see me talk about it there. But yeah, I agree with you, Garden Variety. I really do. All right, next up. Scott Brown writes, one of the reasons I love movies is that they give you perspective and insight into cultures and historical events you wouldn't otherwise have access to. Perspectives is so important in being an open-minded person. It helps you realize we're all just human. No, listen, the beautiful thing about the movies, you know, we talk about this a lot, and I was just saying this again yesterday, I think, was that movies tell stories through other people's eyes. They tell us stories about the way the world is through your eyes or through other people's eyes, the way we hope it can be, the way it ideally would be, the way we fear it could be, our hopes, our dreams, our fears, it's all those things. And you're right, it always tells stories from a certain perspective that aren't our own. And that's one of the beautiful things about movies and the power that they have. And I think that's a really great observation there, Scott. Well said. All right, next up, Willow writes, as an Italian, have you ever been bothered by how Italian Americans are often portrayed on screen? Have you personally known anybody who's been offended by the stereotypes? I actually haven't. And, you know, I went to a high school. You have to understand, Hamilton, Ontario, one of the reasons my grandfather, when he came over on the boat, one of the reasons my grandfather settled in Hamilton is because that's where a lot of Italians were settling. This huge Italian community, huge in Hamilton. As a matter of fact, like when I went to high school, I went to St. John de Brebeuf High School, Catholic high school I went to. St. John de Brebeuf. And basically the school was divided in 2. I mean, look, you had every other faction like you did. I mean, you had your metalheads, you had you had skinheads, you had the jocks, you had the geeks, like every other school, right? But there was another big distinction. You're either Italian or you weren't. You were a WAP or you were a Mungie. I mean, that's the way it just kind of was in our school. And in every one of the subgroups, there was Italians and non-Italians. There was Italian metalheads. There was Italian skinheads. There was the Italian geeks. There were Italian jocks. I mean, it was all thing, but that was just a huge thing. But no, look, as somebody who grew up in an Italian family, I have never personally been offended by Italian stereotypes we've seen, but that is not me saying that others shouldn't have been offended by it. I'm just telling you my experience. That's all. I have personally never been offended by what I've seen as a portrayal, because I've never seen a portrayal of my heritage. I've only seen a portrayal of individual characters who happen to share my heritage. But again, that's just me. I'm not saying other people shouldn't have been insulted or whatever. I'm just saying, for me, no, I've never personally been bothered by it, to be honest with you. But again, other people may, and I don't blame them for that either, but just me personally, I've not been. All right, next up, good question, Willow. Ryan Lohner writes, the first episode of the new Mighty Ducks show is out, and it's surprisingly pretty decent. Plus, Dylan Playfair from Letterkenny is the jackass opposing coach, and and is perfect for it. I'll tell you what. So the reason I know, even though I don't really have any interest, that's not fair. I have zero interest in the new Mighty Ducks show. Zero interest. But the reason I know it's out is because my wife, Ann, who is a big Gilmore Girls fan, was like, John, the new Mighty Ducks has the mom from Gilmore Girls. I'm like, well, I guess I'm going to know all about this show now. So yeah, I don't know. Listen, I'm not saying the show's bad. I've never seen it. I can't say that the new Mighty Ducks show is good or bad. I've never seen it, so I can't give an opinion. I'm just saying I have very little to no interest. That's just it. But I know that the mom from Gilmore Girls is in it. All right, next up. The Wakandan Forever writes, Wakanda was watching concert videos of guitarists and came across Buckethead. I'm not familiar with Buckethead. I admit I laughed the first time I saw him. Then he started playing amazing. Is there a live performer you made assumptions about and got surprised by? Finger licking good. So honestly, I've told this story before, but it happened in a live concert. I went to a Weird Al Yankovic concert a bunch of years ago when I was living in Saskatoon. He sold out the hockey arena in the big arena in Saskatoon. I went to go watch that show there because I've grown up a big Weird Al fan. And his band comes on stage. And look, I'm not trying to appearance shame anybody, all right? But I just need to tell you this to set the context. His band comes out before he does, right? Weird Al Yankovic's band comes out before he does. And it was not an attractive group of men. Again, that's all I'm going to say. It was not an attractive group of men. You're used to seeing like a band come out and they're long hair and they all look like models and these dudes came out like this 50-year-old, 40, 50-pound overweight, balding lead guitarist comes out and some really the face only a mother could love kind of bass player comes out and whatever, right? I'm like, okay, what? Because you're not used to seeing that, right? It's not what you're used to seeing at a concert. Well, then Weird Al comes out and they start playing. And within about 30 seconds, I realized what was going on stage and why this wasn't like he didn't go out and get the best looking people to be in his band. And I realized it was because of this. Because Weird Al Yankovic doesn't give a F what the musicians look like. He just wanted the best musicians in the world. And I am telling you, this sounds weird to say about a Weird Al concert. The musicianship from the keyboard player, the bassist, the guitarist, the drummer, across the board, the musicianship was some of the best I've ever seen in a live concert. And it blew my expectations away. It was absolutely incredible. They were fantastic, and I loved that show. Anyway, thanks for that. Next up, Johnny Winter writes, like you, I enjoyed both versions of Justice League, but do you think they reshot some of the scenes because they wanted to make it more sense and lighthearted safe? Batman had more to do in the theatrical than Zack Snyder's. I like the 2017 Steppenwolf more personally. I like the new. Let me put it this way. I like Steppenwolf a little bit more in the new HBO version, although not a lot more. but I do like him a little bit more because they give a little bit more depth to him. I preferred the design of Steppenwolf in the theatrical version. The CG was much better, much better in the Zack Snyder version. But I think I like the design, like the basic design, better. I wasn't a big fan of spiky armor Steppenwolf. I wasn't a big fan of that, but whatever. Look, it was all everything that was done was predicated around cutting the movie in half. All the scenes they took out, then any extra little stuff they had to shoot to make what was left make any sort of sense. It was all predicated on this starting determination. The movie can't be longer than 2 hours, and it still has to come out on its release date. Every other decision was all directly connected to that one key decision. And that, I think, is ultimately what causes the mess. But anyway, that's just kind of my take on it at any rate. All right. Let's see here. Next up, Wakandan Forever writes, I recently watched The Greatest Showman again. I love that movie. You have said that Hugh Jackman is the greatest all-around entertainer out there. I still believe that. For years, I said Whitney Houston was the most versatile woman out there. Sing, dance, act, model, good looks. Who is that woman now? I don't know. I mean, there are so few. I don't think there's anybody in the league of a Hugh Jackman, because it's not just that he sings and dances and acts. He is an Academy Award level actor. He's been nominated several times. He is a great singer. Like, just go watch Greatest Showman. That dude can belt. He is a Broadway dancer. He is a legit dancer. I mean, it's not like a Justin Timberlake. Yeah, Justin Timberlake is a fabulous entertainer. But is he an Oscar caliber actor? No. He's no. Great on a lot of other things, but there are so few Hugh Jackmans, male or female, that are truly great singers, truly great dancers, truly great actors. Not many of them. Now, you might be able to make an argument for J-Lo, Jennifer Lopez. I mean, especially after watching that, I can't remember. What, guys, help me out in the live chat. What was the name of her stripper movie she just did last year? It was really good. If you guys remember the name of that, throw that down into the live chat. I'll wait for that to pop up there. But, you know, J-Lo she is not a like Academy level actress. Hustlers. Thank you, CJ. CJ was the first to put in there. So Cord Cutter, also the Jedi Brandon, Michael Gonzalez, Simon Cord, a bunch of you guys. Thank you guys for that. Hustlers. Very good movie. J-Lo is not, to me, an Academy level actress, but she's actually better than you think. And Hustlers really shows that off. And she's obviously a singer dancer. So I guess I would say maybe the closest to a Hugh Jackman on the female side right now might be a J-Lo. I think maybe be a J-Lo. So I'll go with that for now. Anyway, next up, we've got James Germain writes, hey, John, Invincible was incredible. I really enjoy it so far. The first 3 episodes have been fantastic. Love how the cast of The Walking Dead voiced the Guardians of the Globe, and the Walking Dead pun doesn't escape me, especially in that I don't watch The Walking Dead, so I have no idea. I was going to say I don't watch Fear the Walking Dead, and I haven't watched The Walking Dead for the last couple of seasons. It doesn't escape me, especially in the last scene with Pitter Patter, John Dead Man walking, Pitter Patter, let's get at her. Listen, we were talking about it earlier on today's show. I am not generally a fan. There are a few exceptions, but I'm generally not a fan of like Marvel or DC animated superhero stuff. I think most of it is complete shite. With a couple of exceptions, that I do quite like a lot. But yeah, man, this show Invincible, it's choice. It's really, really choice. And I am enjoying it a hell of a lot right now. All right, next up, BK Dan writes, hey, John and Co. I've been seeing that Jeremy Renner has been fired because of his opinion on what Disney did about Gina Carano. What websites are you reading, BK? Is it true? No, we're not even going to bother talking about it. What websites are you reading? Dude, listen, do yourself a favor. Limit your reading to Variety, The Hollywood Reporter, Deadline, Entertainment Weekly, whatever. What are you reading that you're reading that? Anyway, Garrett Couch writes, Martian Manhunter. I'm here to help. Bruce, really? What about when 2 Kryptonians nearly destroyed a city? Or when a giant monster killed Superman? Or when recently another alien tried to terraform for an invasion? Hard pass. I know, again, the Martian Manhunter stuff, I get it. There's a lot of people out there who love Martian Manhunter. I get it. So making him pop in there got some people excited. But honestly, none of his 2 scenes were needed in the movie. They didn't need to be there to progress the movie or the narrative or anything like that. He was not needed to be there. And I laughed about that the first time I saw it when he shows up after all the trouble is now done, after the threat has been dealt with. He's like, hey, I'm here to help out. Really? You know what it's like? It's like that guy. It's like your brother-in-law. Not my brother-in-law, Ray, is great. But I'm saying it's like your brother-in-law when you're moving and, it's a pain in the ass. You're moving across town. You got to carry stuff up flights of stairs. You got big furniture. You got a piano. And you're moving from noon to 5 p.m. And then your brother-in-law shows up at 6. Hey, man, all right, ready to help you move. And you just look at him. It's like, you mother effer. Like, we're done. We're done moving. Oh, man, did I miss it? I was so excited about helping you move, you asshole. You knew it was from 12 o'clock, not 6 p.m. Anyway, that's kind of Martian Manhunter in Justice League. He's showing up after Bruce Wayne already moved. Hey, Bruce Wayne, you don't know me, but I'm Martian Manhunter. I got superpowers. I'm here to help. You're only about 3 years late, dude. I know, that's kind of what goes through my head. Next up, we've got James Argento writes, Suicide Squad trailer makes me think they are going to send 2 teams to do mission. First with Flag as leader that fails, and second with Elba as the leader. Prediction, the head of Corto Maltese name, Mateo Soares, ends up being Vandal Savage. Might be. Actually, Vandal Savage, I wouldn't doubt at all if they use that. Vandal Savage has been used a couple of really interesting times, both in animated and live action form. It would be really cool to see if they do that. I still think Flag, because remember, Flag is the only guy of the Suicide Squad who's not actually a Suicide Squad. He's not a prisoner. He's a military guy who does it. So I still think at the end of the day, he's like oversees all of it, but maybe, you got your captain, you got your sergeant. So I think that's kind of the way they're going to break that down. Like if Flag isn't there, then Idris Elba's the leader. If Flag is there, he's the leader. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how they kind of shake that out. All I know is that I'm very, very excited. I'm very, very excited for this movie, James. Very excited. Wakanda Forever writes, hey, John, quick question. Why are all the movies I signed up for to watch on HBO Max leaving after 30 days? Are all the new releases going to do that from now on? Thanks. Love you guys. Wakanda Forever. I'm still not very clear on why they're doing that. But no, it's not for all their stuff. It's only for, it seems like they're only doing this for movies that we were originally supposed to go to theaters in 2021, but now they're going on HBO Max, but they're limiting those to 30 days. I am not really clear on what their rationale is and why they're doing that. But the reality is, it's not really all that important. Like, if you were excited about watching Wonder Woman 84, you were going to watch it within the first few days that it came out. You weren't going to wait a month to watch it. If you were somebody who was looking forward to Snyder Cut, if you were one of those guys, then you weren't going to wait 3.5 weeks to watch it once it launched. You were going to watch it within the first couple of days that it comes out. If you're somebody that's looking forward, if you're one of these people like me who's looking forward to seeing Godzilla versus Kong, guess what? Now, I'm clearly going to a movie theater to see it properly, but the chances are you're not waiting around for 2.5 weeks to watch it. You're going to probably watch it as soon as you can. So I'm not quite sure why they do the 30-day thing. It's not going to be a part of their regular programming, I don't believe. But at the same time, it's really not a big deal because if it's a movie you're looking forward to, you're probably not waiting a month to watch it anyway. So that's kind of my take on it. But again, no, I actually don't have an answer for that. I'm sure they have an answer for it. I just don't know what it is. All right, Sam Fisher writes, could the MCU introduce Iron Lad in Ant-Man 3, since they seem to be introducing other young Avenger members like Kate Bishop, American Chavez, and Billy and Tommy, and Iron Lad is a younger version of Kang, and Kang is in Ant-Man 3. He's also supposed to be a descendant, if I'm not mistaken. In one of the comic stories, they suggest he's a descendant of Doctor Doom. Iron Lad is from the future. That's why. But there's some iterations, if I'm not mistaken. It's too bad Rob's not here right now. But that Iron Lad is actually a descendant of Doctor Doom as well. So I'm not. Just because Kang is there doesn't mean Iron Lad's going to be there. I mean, Kang also has connections to many comic book characters. It doesn't mean they're going to be there. But is it possible? It's absolutely possible. It is absolutely possible. Do I think it's probable? Probably not. Not to mention that it already looks like they're going to try doing Iron Heart, so you already kind of got that there. So I'm going to say unlikely, but not impossible. Let's see where they go with that, Sam. All right, next up. TJ Thomas writes, I think the Oscars choice on this is short-sighted. I'm assuming we're talking about the you have to be there personally and you have to be there in person. These nominees are still working professionals in the industry. If they are currently on a set, does the Academy expect them to shut down a full production to go into person then re-quarantine? Oh, that I have no problem with. I have no problem with that. That's always been the case. Like, I don't mind under a normal year when there's no pandemic saying, no, you cannot Skype in to accept your Academy Award and give your acceptance speech. You can be here. Now, I have no problem with that in a regular year. And yes, if you are nominated for an Academy Award, then yes, you can get an evening off. And I'm sure that the movie you're making, now maybe not always, maybe sometimes the scheduling doesn't line up and it's just not possible from a logistics point of view. But like if I'm making a movie with, I don't know, let's say Jennifer Lopez. Let's say I'm making a movie with Jennifer Lopez. And the Oscars are happening while we're shooting our movie. And Jennifer Lopez says to me, hey, John, producer John, I'm nominated for Academy Award for Best Actress from one of the other movies I did. Can we make sure that in 2 months that I'm not shooting on this one day? Can we make sure that you shoot other things on that day? If I'm a producer, number one, I'm of course go and see if you can win an Academy Award. This is the Oscars. But also selfishly, I'm thinking Jennifer Lopez getting nominated for an Academy Award and being on camera at the Oscars is going to be free publicity for my movie. So I have no problem under normal non-pandemic years, the Oscars saying, look, if you want to accept an Oscar and give a speech, you have to be here in person. However, in a pandemic year, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Well, it's not the stupidest thing I've ever heard, but it is among the stupidest things I've ever heard. During a pandemic where people are in quarantine countries and all this kind of stuff, it's like, and maybe they don't feel, maybe, what if it's an older actor? What if Clint Eastwood is nominated for, you know what I'm saying? It's like people who are at higher risk of COVID and stuff like that, and they don't feel comfortable being in a room with 75 other people. Like this 1 year, there are a lot of very, very good rules, but every rule needs to have situations where there can be an exception. And this is just that year, man. This is that year. In a pandemic, giving Oscar nominees the option to Skype in or Zoom call in to accept the award and give their speech, that needs to be an exception. Anyway, I don't even think they should be having the Oscars this year, by the way. I think they should just delay it till next year, but that's me, whatever. All right, next up. By the way, Mr. Jones sends in a super chat badge in the live chat. Thank you, Mr. Jones. Appreciate that. If you don't answer this, writes, if a member of the Guardians of the Galaxy sacrificed their life, who would you want it to be? I'd pick Drax. In the final battle, he looks at the team, tells them, I'm going to see my family again, with a smile on his face, and dies. I'm not crying, you're crying. I don't know. You could do that with any character. Like you could have, Rocket say, I've never had a real family till I knew you. And then he dies. Waterworks. You could have Gamora. Oh, it doesn't matter because Gamora just comes back from the dead anyway. Gamora's back. It doesn't matter who you kill in the MCU. It's the Marvel Cinematic fake death universe. It doesn't matter who you kill. Even if they did kill Drax, you know he'd be back in the next one anyway, because that's what Marvel does. They'll come up with some reason, say, time travel, he's back again. I don't know. I wouldn't want to lose any of them. I think they're all great. I think they're all great. And I really like Dave Bautista as Drax. I really love him in that role. All right, next up. Yo, Adrian writes, I understand filmmaking is hard, so I don't fault Warner Brothers or Zack. In fact, I am grateful to have seen the Trinity on the big screen or a 58-inch screen in my lifetime. However, I am now skeptical when Warner Brothers says they have a plan and the excitement I had is just gone. I mean, that's there for every individual, right? Like, whether you're excited about something or not is going to be up to the individual and how the situation is hitting you. By the way, Rampage, Predacon sends in a super chat badge. Thank you, Rampage. Appreciate that. I would say this, though, and this goes back to something we were talking about earlier. You can't deny Warner Brothers has had some tremendous success with DC without Zack Snyder. Aquaman was a really fun billion-dollar film. Joker was an Academy Award-winning billion-dollar film, nominated for Best Picture at the Academy Awards. Like, they have made really good, really successful stuff. That's not to say that they can't make really good, really successful stuff with Zack. Obviously they can. But to think that they can't do it without Zack, well, that's just factually untrue. They've proven that. Wonder Woman was a smash success with the critics and box office and the audience. Aquaman is a billion-dollar film. Justice League, a billion-dollar film. I thought Shazam was utterly fantastic. It's my second favorite MCU film. Yeah, they made Harley Quinn and the Birds of Prey. First one that I haven't liked. But yeah, I would say this. I would say be a little bit more open-minded and not think it can only be done this way or else it can't work at all. Right? I just, it's like saying after Richard Harris died, nope, nobody else can play Dumbledore. Harry Potter movies won't work unless it's Chamberlain playing Dumbledore. Well, they went and got Gambon and they did great. They did great. So I would just say be open-minded. Be open-minded and see where things go. All right, next up. We've got BK Dan writes, hey, John, just a question. Where did you get that hoodie of Endgame Avengers? What site? Can you throw a link in the chat? Thank you and bring on the filthy. If I'm not mistaken, because I've got a couple. I believe the one that I was wearing the other day on the last show was, I believe I got that at the premiere. I think I got it at the Endgame premiere. I might be mistaken about that. Because I know did I have it before the premiere? Did I get it at the premiere? Because I know I was wearing it at the Endgame premiere. I think I got it there. Anyway, I think I bought it there. I might be mistaken, but I think I bought it there. I'll ask Ann. Ann will know for sure. But if I can, if you should be able to jump though on, just go to Amazon and search for Avengers jacket, Avengers Endgame jacket. And you should be able to find them if I'm not mistaken. But I think that's where I got mine, although maybe I got it somewhere else. But yeah, search Amazon. You should have no problem finding it, BK. All right, next up. Sanji writes, hey, John, can Captain Marvel profit off the success of WandaVision and potentially Miss Marvel? With the successful introduction of Monica Rambeau / Photon Spectrum and the refreshing, full of excitement character that is Kamala Khan, can they pass $1 billion? Well, I mean, this kind of came up the other day. Remember, without Monica Rambeau and without Miss Marvel, the first Captain Marvel made over $1 billion. The first Captain Marvel movie made over $1 billion without those characters. So can the sequel make over $1 billion? It can. I don't think it will. I think Captain Marvel 2 will be very successful. I think it'll make the 800 million plus range. I think it'll be very successful, make a lot of money. I just don't know if it'll make $1 billion, because you got to remember there was an excitement going into that. It was the first female lead Marvel film after doing 20 plus movies. They finally did one with a female lead. There was a lot of excitement. A lot of families were very excited for it. And yeah, and it was a good movie. Not one of the better Marvel movies, but it was a good movie. So It definitely can make $1 billion though. I would say there's a 40% chance it makes $1 billion or more. I think it's more likely to take place, hit between the 800 million and $1 billion mark. Instead of over $1 billion, I think it'll be between 800 million and $1 billion. But again, ask me that question again once we get closer and there's like a trailer or something. Then we'll have some better guesses, I think. All right, guys, we're going to take this one more question. And then, you know, we're going to go long today. We're going to make the show extra long today, if you guys don't mind, and if you will indulge. So I'm going to do this one last question. Then we're going to take a 3 or 4 minute break. I'm going to run, refill my drink, use the bathroom, gives you guys a chance to grab something to eat, talk amongst yourselves. So let's do one more, and then we'll take a little bit of a break before we go on to an extended version of the show today. All right, Stubble McShave writes, the demand that the Oscars must be accepted in person this year is beyond idiotic. I completely agree, Stubble. It's just not that there's a risk in traveling now. Many productions have a quarantine period of several weeks if the cast or crew have been in another part of the world. Yeah, that was something that the last viewer was kind of alluding to as well. Like, being on set and leaving set, no big deal. But if you're shooting, as one of the previous viewers was alluding to, if you're shooting in one of these countries, like say you're shooting in Canada, right? Well, Canada has a rule right now that if you enter Canada, you have to go 2 weeks into quarantine before you can do anything else. So it's not just like you're missing one day. You literally got to miss 2 weeks. On top of all the other concerns about a pandemic. So I completely agree with you, Stubble. I completely agree with you. All right, guys. We're going to take a short break now here, and then we can continue on. We're going to do a long version of the John Campea Show here today. We'll get through more of your questions. So if you guys will hang tight, don't go anywhere. We will be right back. All right, guys, and we are back. Thank you so much for your patience as I took a little bit of a break there. We're going overtime here today on the John Campea Show, so let's keep on rolling, shall we? We're going to get things picked up here with BK Dan, who writes, hey, John, figured out why you were buffering and lost signal. Attack of Big Brother. Well, no, the other day, for the first time, now I have been using a piece of software for my live streaming and broadcasting, an excellent program called Wirecast. It is phenomenal. It's wonderful. It's expensive, but it's just really world class. And a lot of people used to ask me, why don't I use OBS? Well, because Wirecast is just hands down better than OBS. It just is. Now, recently, last year, OBS did a significant upgrade where they added some features and abilities to do some things that made me decide, you know what, I'm going to give this a shot. And I've been using, now I may go back to Wirecast at some point, but I wanted to give OBS a really good opportunity to try using it and stuff like that. But the other day, it just straight up froze. Like, it wasn't the internet, it wasn't YouTube, it was just OBS just froze up. And I had to kind of restart the show. So I've had a few technical issues with OBS. Again, it hasn't been terrible, hasn't happened often, but I have had a few. So we'll see. I'm going to give it a few more months, and then we'll see if I stick with OBS or if I go back to Wirecast. We'll see how that goes. All right. Anyway, next up, we've got Nolasco writes, all these Restore the Snyderverse hashtag spamming over every Warner Brothers post and even James Gunn's new post is getting so annoying. I think they're just a very vocal minority. They are. And you know what? The majority are speaking up to try to counter them. The majority of the Restore the Snyder Cut fans are speaking up to try to drown those people out. And I commend them. I think bravo to them for doing that. Anyway, I think they're just a very vocal minority. But what do you think? Any chance WB actually bends to their will? So ungrateful. No, see, here's the thing that they don't understand. And I mentioned this earlier. And again, it's important to note these are the minority of people in that group. The majority of them have a lot more common sense. But what these folks don't understand is all they are doing is dissuading Warner Brothers from ever wanting to listen to them again. Because Warner Brothers is right now is like thinking, okay, so you begged us to put up the money and put out the Snyder Cut. We saw some benefit for us to draw some attention to HBO Max. Okay, great. So we gave it to you. And what do you do in return? You attack us. You ungrateful little pieces of shit. I mean, if that's probably what Warner Brothers is thinking, right? If anything, all they're doing is making Warner Brothers regret that they put out Snyder Cut, and they're making them and other studios go, never give in to like little fan Twitter campaigns, because they will turn on you. They will be ungrateful. They'll just start making more demands and try to, adopt it. And again, that's why I think it's so important and so good that the majority of those fans, the majority of like people who want to see a Restore the Snyder Cut, they're speaking up now and trying to counteract the toxicity from the minority of that group to try to put a more positive, better spin on it. And I think that's great that they're doing that. And I think more fandoms should do that. Like, I think whatever fandom you're a part of, whether it's a Marvel fandom or Star Wars fandom, a DC fandom, when you see the idiots who are in your fandom doing idiot things, you need to speak up as a part of that fandom. You need to speak up and counter that. And I think it's really good to see a lot of the people who are fans of restoring the Snyderverse, the Snyder Cut stuff, are doing that. And I think that's very encouraging to see. I think this is a very positive thing. I think more fandoms can learn from that. So that's a good thing. All right, next up. Let's see. Mark 2021 writes, 1 of 3. Hey, John, I recently watched Man of Steel for the first time in years. Oh my God, not only does it still live up, but it's better than what I remember. Seriously, Man of Steel is a movie that gets better every time I watch it. I really don't understand the hate a lot of people give, and Zod is now one of my all-time favorite comic book villains. Not just a curly mustache bad guy, but you can understand why he's doing the things he is doing, and may not agree, but you can understand him, which in my opinion makes the best villains. So my other question is, would you rank the Man of Steel Zod as one of your favorite comic book villains? Thanks. Yeah. Now, I don't have him say higher than Thanos or things like that, but Thanos and Zod have something very, very key in common. They both, like a lot of the best villains do, they see themselves as the hero. But guess what? If you're Kryptonian, and obviously none of us are Kryptonian, but if you're Kryptonian, Zod is the hero. Zod is trying to save his species. Zod is trying to save his civilization. It doesn't change the fact that he is an unscrupulous, evil son of a bitch, but his motives are he's trying to save. He really does love his world. He loves his civilization. He loves his people. He wants them to survive and to thrive. And at the end of the day, that's what, now, he was willing to wipe out humanity to see it. But if you're Kryptonian, you look at Zod as the hero and Superman as the evil villain. Superman's trying to wipe out your species, man. Superman's trying to stop you're trying to wipe your civilization out of existence. And that's one of the things that I loved about him, in that the way Michael Shannon played him was not just, I am a bad guy, I will find him, I'm so bad. Like, it wasn't just that. You could, whenever he's like when Superman was getting ready to destroy the Genesis Chamber, the thing that could possibly give birth to millions of more Kryptonians and keep the species going. As Superman's about to destroy it, you could see it on Zod's face, the pain, the desperation, the pleading. Like, he was begging Superman, don't do this. You're killing our people. And he was like, it wasn't just his greed or his desire for power. He desperately wanted to save his people. Unfortunately, it was either his people or our people, and Superman had decided Earth is my home now, and Krypton had its chance. But yeah, and that's one of the, I think, is an even better example of that than Thanos. So yes, not my absolute favorite comic book movie villain, but he ranks right up there. I would say he's one of them. He's one of them. All right. Anyway, next up, we got Sam Fisher writes, I had not interest, probably meant no interest. I had no interest in Debris, but you make it sound like X-Files if X-Files tagline was, the truth is out there, as in the truth is out there to the public, and not the truth is out there somewhere. I got to tell you, I'm losing interest in that show Debris. The first episode I found very intriguing, but it's not building on that. It's a show is not getting stronger as it goes, like a good show should. Like Superman and Lois is getting stronger as it grows. Debris is one that I did think looked really interesting. The first episode, fascinating. The concept is fascinating. But as each episode goes, I'm like, this just seems kind of silly at this point. Magical alien space. Every piece of the ship does something else magical. I mean, I'm maybe going to give it 2 more episodes. I'm going to give Debris like 2 more episodes and see if they can actually turn it around. Because right now I'm just kind of like, I'm not, there's no cohesion here. I don't know. I'll give it 2 more episodes and then I'm going to tap out on it. Let's see if it can turn things around. All right. The Hoser and the Knob writes, hey, John, just wanted to address the Sam messing with Stark Tech question from yesterday. As a former, one of 2, Air Force aircraft mechanic, I can say that a pilot would not be messing with their aircraft like Sam was. That being said, Sam is a pararescue. I guess that was just one of 1. Was that just one of 1? Yes, I guess it was. Okay. Was a pararescue. Yeah, so I don't think, like, what I was saying the other day, because somebody's thinking, wait, what the heck is Sam trying to fix that piece of tech for? He's not an engineer. Yes, but my kind of point that I was trying to make is he probably knows the basics of what is, like, you drive a car. I am not a mechanic. All right. I am not a mechanic. But when, my car runs low in oil, I know how to put more oil into the car. When the windshield wiper fluid runs out, I know how to replace the windshield wiper fluid. When, the tire is flat, I know how to get the tire repaired. I am no mechanic. I got to imagine that somebody like Sam would have at least the most basic of understanding of, it's like, oh, this is broke on it, I can fix that. Like, I'm sure he can't reprogram Red Wing or anything like that, but I'm sure there's probably some very basic level stuff that he would probably be able to do. I'm sure there's some basic level stuff he'd be able to do. All right. Thanks for sharing that though, Hoser. I appreciate that, man. Next up, Zach March writes, I was curious, What if the MCU decided to turn a sequel such as Ant-Man 3, Captain Marvel 2, and such into a Disney Plus series to have more time to tell the story? Do you think that could work? Do you think they would ever do that? What title would work best? I'll be honest with you, Zach. I am not for that idea at all. Like, look, they are two different arts. Doing a movie is a different art than doing a TV show. And while, you know me, I love a good show, right? I love a good show. But there is something about, I've always said this, and this has ruffled some people's feathers, but whatever. It is much harder to make a great movie than it is to make a great TV show. They're both incredibly hard, don't get me wrong. But like, you know, you take a show like The Wire. Some people think The Wire is like maybe the greatest television show of all time. I'm not one of them. The Wire is great, but there's a lot of TV files out there who think like The Wire is like the greatest show ever made. But even a lot of them will tell you, you got to get through the first like season. You got to like get through the first season. Like that's a luxury television has. In a movie, you have, let's say 2 hours and 20 minutes. That's what you got. You got to introduce all your characters, get us to know who they are, what their motivations are, set up the basic concept of what the story and the narrative is going to be, then head into the main body of it where the story plays out, and then you got to bring it into its third act, bring it all to conclusion, and wrap the thing up, and you got 2 hours and 20 minutes to do it. Go. I still contend it is much more difficult for a storyteller to tell it that way, but there's something all the more satisfying about that single shot experience of getting that entire story experience in one sitting. I love it. That's why I prefer movies over TV shows, personally. Although that's not knocking TV shows. You know I love an awful lot of TV shows. Love them. But give me a great movie experience over a great TV experience any day of the week. Any day of the week. Now, that being said, can they take something like, I don't think they would. Like, I don't think you get a WandaVision movie. We're going to get a movie with Wanda in it, but I don't think we would get a WandaVision movie. Nor do I think would they do Captain Marvel 2 as a season of, I think they try to keep some distinction there. So I don't know. It's an actually really intriguing question, Zach. It's an intriguing question. I don't think they'll do that, but I don't feel confident saying that. I mean, it is very possible maybe they could, but I think they'll do some things that they did, experiences they design for television, experiences they design as one-shot movies. But I don't know. It is something that will become more and more of an option to them as they move forward. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with that. Excellent question, Zach. Well said. All right, next up. Zach March writes, "Hey, John, big fan of the show." Thank you so much, Zach. If someone had never seen a movie before and has no idea what they are, and you had the job to introduce them to the world of film, what movies would you show them? I don't know. That's such a random question. That's such a random question. I'm not sure. I mean, I don't know. Somebody who had never seen a movie before, what would be the movie I would show them? I don't know. Maybe something Shakespearean. Maybe Henry VIII, something like, if they don't know movies, maybe they understand Shakespeare and like stage and whatever. And maybe that, I don't know. It's not a bad question. It's very, very random. And I have no idea. Somebody who never heard of movies, what would be the first movie I'd show them? I don't know. I just don't know, Zach. I'm just going to have to default on that one. I just don't know. Interesting question though. All right. GQ writes, "Hey, Gio. I've never felt I got enough of Eugene Levy in the movies. So good. I just love seeing him, but because of, I'm addicted to Schitt's Creek. With Kim's Convenience, The Amazing Canadian should make more sitcoms. Hail Canada." Yeah, man, I'm telling you, the two best sitcoms in the last number of years are, oddly enough, two Canadian shows. Three, if you want to include Letterkenny. But Schitt's Creek and Kim's Convenience, I think, are the two best sitcoms. And of course, Schitt's Creek just won all the Emmys, like won all of them. Yeah, but Eugene Levy, he definitely should have been in more movies. That dude is so good. Ann and I just watched Best in Show again. It's been a long time since I've watched Best in Show. That movie is so funny, especially if you're dog people like Ann and I are dog people. It's so funny. But anyway, yes, Eugene Levy is an icon. He's an absolute icon. BMC writes, was Rise of Skywalker the last film to gross $1 billion? I think it was. Crazy. Will that change this year? And if so, which MCU movie will do it? Black Widow, Shang-Chi, Eternals, or No Way Home? I don't think any, BMC. I'll be honest with you. Now, I think guys in the live chat, correct BMC if we're wrong, but I think Star Wars The Last Jedi was probably the last movie to make $1 billion at the box office. I can't think of any others that came out after that unless you guys can, but I think that is the last one to do it. Will any do it this year? Oh, I don't think so. I mean, look, anything's possible, right? Anything's possible. Like, who knows? Maybe like we were just saying earlier, if Godzilla versus Kong can make $40 million this weekend, which is a tall order, and I don't know if it can under the current circumstances with the pandemic, with the limited theater capacity, all that kind of stuff. I don't know that it can get there. I just don't know if it can get there. But let's say, for argument's sake, that, sorry, did we say Last Jedi? Rise of Skywalker. Not The Last Jedi, Rise of Skywalker. Rise of Skywalker was the last one to make $1 billion. Let's say Godzilla versus Kong comes out and makes like $60 million. I don't know if that's not, I doubt that's even remotely possible. But let's say it does. And then Mortal Kombat comes out and it gets like $70 or $80 million. Then conceivably, when we get further and closer to the end of the year, as theaters open more back up and more people are immunized, and could Eternals hit $1 billion? Maybe, but I think, very, very unlikely. Very, very unlikely. So I'm going to guess, it could be till, I don't know if we're going to get $1 billion film till like 2023. I don't know. You know what? The next 2 months are going to be so vital because here we're in danger right now. As far as I'm concerned, we're in danger. Because what happening is that things are starting to get a little bit back to normal, right? Especially in California, we've seen the new infection rate drop a lot. People are getting immunized, all this kind of stuff. The problem is we as human beings are absolute fucking morons. And I'm talking about all of us. No exceptions. We're all morons. And what happens is some people see, oh, things are getting better. Well, then we don't have to worry anymore. We can just pretend like everything's fine. Somebody gave a great analogy of this once. Somebody wrote this into the show. It's like you get thrown out of a plane, but you got a parachute and you pull the parachute and you think, oh, good, we've slowed down. I guess I can take the parachute off now. And then, of course, you die. And that's the danger we're in right now, that people are going to see that, oh, movie theaters are opening back up. Restaurants are opening back up. We're progressing. We don't even have to be careful anymore. And that's what I'm worried about. I'm worried about us going right back to the shithole we were in 3 months ago because everybody thought we didn't have to be careful anymore. But the next 2 months, I think, are going to be vital. If we can keep our guard up and if we can keep doing the right things, then I don't know, maybe a movie towards the end of 2021 could maybe break $1 billion. I think it's very unlikely, though. I think right now it's very, very unlikely. Maybe 2022, but maybe 20. I mean, I think we'll continue to see things get better, but it may not be till like 2023 that we see that. But I don't know. Ask me again in like a month or two. I think we'll have a much, much better idea about that in a month or two. Let's see how Godzilla versus Kong does. Because maybe Godzilla versus Kong comes out and only makes $10 million this weekend, which would be disappointing. But maybe it makes 40, which would be very encouraging. We'll see how that goes. All right. Great question. Thanks for writing that in, man. All right. Next up, Randall McMurphy writes, first of all, congrats on your new home. Thank you so much, Randall. It is beautiful and well-deserved, but I have to nitpick. LOL. It frustrates me seeing your TV so high above the wall. It's crazy how many people write this in. High on the wall with the sofa so low on back supporting height with no headrest. Are you comfortable with that setup? Yeah, it is crazy. I've had, I don't know if I've got it here. Let me see if I can let me see if I can find this. I'm not sure I'll be able to find it, but maybe I can. So I've put up, images and pictures of the house and our new setup here. And I love it. I love our new home. I've shown you guys some I can't find a picture of it right now. Huh. Wait a second. Let me see. Anyway. And what some people notice is that the TV is a little bit, at least it visually appears and looks to some people like it's high on the wall. But in reality, it's actually not that high up on the wall. Now, let me see if I can find a contrasting picture to this that will make it make more sense. I should be getting close to finding one here. Okay, so let me show you these two pictures, okay? So here's one. You can see where Frankie Edgar is. Like that's the TV, and it looks like it's pretty high up on the wall, right? It looks like it's pretty high up on the wall. But take a look at it from my perspective as I'm sitting on the couch. My perspective as I'm sitting on the couch is actually almost, it's barely above eye line. It's barely above eye line, right? Here's the thing. It depends on how far away you are from the TV, because what people misjudge when they see pictures of my living room is how far back the couch is from the wall where the TV is. Because if the TV is this high and I'm sitting this close to it, then yeah, my head's got to look up at it like this. But as the further you move it back, the more and more your head is just at normal level to see something that's even higher up further back. And people underestimate how far it is from my couch to my TV. The second reason why this was important to me is because we often do, like, whether it's UFC or movie theme night parties. Obviously, we haven't done any during the pandemic. But the other reason why it's important for me to have the TV a little higher up is so you see behind the couch. Sometimes when we do big UFC viewing parties or we have big movie theme nights, we'll have like 15, 20 plus people at our place. And we want people who sit behind the main line of the couch to be able to have a good view of the television as well. So we can line up behind the couch like 10, 15 seats if we need to, so people can see that as well. So actually, no, I'm not sitting on my couch watching my TV like this. I'm actually sitting on my couch looking at my TV like this. And it's just a matter of perspective and where you see it from. So anyway, there's just that. But thank you for the question. I appreciate that. Okay, next up. The Wakandan Forever writes, I don't want, let me try this again. I don't want Do Your Dirty Work No More. Woo, that trailer blew me away. I'm not sure what trailer we're talking about. Okay, that was the Suicide Squad. King Shark voiced by Sylvester Stallone. Did you hear what I said, John? Yo, Adrian, Sly, Rambo, Rocky himself. I was dying. I thought it would be interesting. This thing looks insane. I'm telling you what, I was very surprised to hear that some people didn't like the Suicide Squad trailer. I thought it was great. I ate it up. And King Shark owned it. I thought King Shark was great. Everything from Num Num and he grabs the guy and starts eating him, or when he's ripping the guy apart. I thought the trailer to Suicide Squad was open, but that's just me. All right, next up. Caps Lost Air writes, hey, John. On Falcon and Winter Soldier, I dislike the macho, selfish attitude of our protagonists amongst themselves and against the new Cap. I'd expect a little more focus in facing the real menace instead of just whining about the shield. Totally immature. They're putting the symbol on top of what it represents. What are they? Children? And a scene with the therapist only absurdly reinforces that instead of correct it. Weak conflicts and weak episode, in my opinion. Hugs, my friends. Well, listen. It's all subjective, man. If that's the way it hit you, that's the way it hit you. I thought the episode was awesome. I love the fact that they're showing Falcon and like Sam and Bucky as being real people who would struggle with real things and would carry on real ways. This is the way they've always been portrayed. And I love the fact that they're not making the characters perfect and pretty. They're going to lose some fights. They're going to say the wrong thing sometimes. To me, that makes the show more compelling. And yeah, I wasn't big on the therapy scene, although there were some moments in the therapy scene that I thought was really great, especially one of the best moments ever in the MCU was Bucky, when he says that line to Falcon, when he says, well, maybe he was wrong about you. And if he was wrong about you, then that means he was wrong about me. I thought that was one of the most powerful moments in the MCU ever. I could have done without some of the other stuff in that therapy session scene, but that moment was one of the best moments ever in the MCU. It said so much about Bucky and where he was at, what he's afraid of, how he sees himself. It was powerful and awesome. But again, it's a piece of art, and art hits us all in different ways. And if it didn't hit you in the right way, it didn't hit you in the right way. And that's, hey, the lots of things people love that I don't like for the same reason. That's the subjectivity of it. And I'm glad you're sharing your thoughts on that, Cap. All right. Next up, we've got Dakota, who writes, in which era of Hollywood would you rather be in as a filmmaker? Not including big special effects or silent movies, but your traditional storytelling movie, the 1940s through the 1960s, the 1970s through the 1980s and 90s, or the 2000s till now. That's easy for me, the 2000s till now. Just I'm not talking about big visual effects, but just the ability to make movies now. Like, I remember I was on set for a couple of days. Do you guys remember that movie Gamer that came out in 2011 with Gerard Butler? Do you guys remember that? It was directed by a couple of buddies of mine, Brian Taylor and Mark Neveldine. You've heard me talk about these guys before. I had Gerard Butler, Michael C. Hall, Kara Sedgwick, Logan Lerman, Allison Lohman, Terry Crews, Ludacris, Dan Callahan, all that kind of stuff. Anyway, so when I was first moving to LA, I drove because I had a lot of stuff and I had my car. So I drove from Hamilton, Ontario to LA. And as I was making the drive, Mark and Brian said, hey, do you want to make sure you drive in such a way that you come through New Mexico? We're shooting our new movie right now. Do you want to come and visit? And I'm like, yes, I would love to come and visit. So I'm driving down and we get into New Mexico and we go in and visit. By the way, Sam Witwer is in that as well. Sam Witwer is in this movie. Oh yeah, I forgot. Milo Ventimiglia is in it too. Zoe Bell is in it. Anyway, Sam Witwer's in the movie. And this was the first time I ever met Sam Witwer. And he did his Emperor Palpatine impression at it, which just literally had me laughing for days. That being said, anyway, so I went through and they were shooting. It was the first movie that Mark and Brian shot on digital cameras. And I remember talking to them because instead of changing film reels and all this kind of stuff, they were showing me like they'd fill up one of the cards, swap out the cards. And I remember talking to them and they were just like going, dude, this changes everything. Like we can shoot the scene. I can pull the card out, slap it into a computer and watch the scene right now. We could never do that before. And he says, it just changes everything about what we can try doing, knowing that we got something right away. Going digital literally changed the whole process of how you make films and what you're able to do. And I thought, and I remember thinking, yeah, I don't know how if I were a filmmaker in the era of still using film, I don't know how I would have done it. So for that reason alone, which may not be a great reason, but for that reason alone, I will say the modern era is the era I would want to be a filmmaker in, because otherwise I just don't think I'd have the patience for it. All right, next up, we got Ryan Lohner, who writes, Beverly Cleary, oh yeah, I heard about this. The author of undoubtedly the first books countless numbers of people have read, has passed away just a couple of weeks away from her 105th birthday. When asked if there was any secret to living so long, she said, I didn't do it on purpose. That's a great line. Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I don't know if it's a Canadian and American thing. But I never, I never read those books when I was a kid. That wasn't part of my experience. So I did hear about her passing away, but that line is iconic. What's the secret to your long life? I didn't do it on purpose. That's funny. Thanks for sharing that, Ryan. All right. Kara Black writes, looking at Marvel's release schedule from July 9th, 2021 to July 8th, 2022, we are getting a total of 7 MCU films in just a 1-year time period. That's not even counting the MCU shows. That is absolutely bonkers. And that's not even counting their Disney Plus shows. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, but that partly has to do with pandemic, in the fact that nothing that was supposed to come out in 2020 was able to come out for them. So it's partly pandemic. I'm sure there's other factors there as well. But yes, we are in a phase right now, starting with WandaVision, that over the next, we are getting a lot of MCU content. Can the MCU keep up the high quality to fight off comic book fatigue? If they keep the quality high, fatigue will not be an issue. If their quality starts to drip, it could very much become an issue. So that's going to be the big question. But yes, there is an awful lot. There is an awful lot of MCU content coming. A hell of a lot of it coming. All right, next up. We got March 2021 writes, 1 or 2. Hi, John. This was meant for the Falcon and Winter Soldier, but it wouldn't let me send a super chat. But towards the end, when/if the new Cap turns bad and fighting Falcon and Bucky, he will turn around, get smacked on the face, and camera pans up, and it's Steve Rogers saying, "I think this belongs to me," snatching the shield. Well, I don't. Hey, listen. Captain America is my favorite MCU character. There's no getting around that. Captain America is my absolute favorite MCU character. That said, do I think there's any chance that he actually pops up in like the full Chris Evans young Captain America form? I don't think so. I mean, I would lose my mind if he did. I would completely lose my mind. Like I said, he's my absolute favorite MCU character. Not my favorite comic book character, but he is my favorite MCU character. I would lose my mind. But yeah, I think that is a very unlikely thing. A very, very unlikely thing. So yeah, it's probably not the case. All right, let's move on here. Next up, Williams writes, okay, here's a crazy theory. What if Green Lantern showed up at the end of Suicide Squad? After all, Starro is a cosmic threat, and I wouldn't put it past Gunn to do something crazy like that. It could also be a fun way to finally introduce Hal or John. But it kind of takes away. It kind of takes away the idea that you don't want the movie to be, you don't want a movie called Suicide Squad and all everybody's talking about is Green Lantern, right? It wouldn't be, I mean, that would kind of be counterproductive. So I don't see there being a lot of advantages to doing that. And like, I don't understand fandoms, and this goes all the way down to like, even if you go back to WandaVision, like people wanting all these completely disconnected, irrelevant, not connected to this thing at all to come in and be a part of it. It's like, why would you want that? I mean, why would you want, you know, like this is a Suicide Squad movie. You'd want it to be about Suicide Squad. Like what would be the connection with Green Lantern? How does that fit in? How does that make sense? Now you're right. Starro is a galactic entity. He's an alien being from another world, the conqueror of worlds, Starro. I still can't believe they're going to have Starro as a villain in this movie. That is like completely crazy. But I mean, how and in what way is Green Lantern connected to that? And why do we want Suicide Squad to not be a Suicide Squad movie and be about something completely random? I don't know. So I don't think it works. I don't think there'd be a purpose to it. So while nothing is impossible, I just don't see them doing that. And honestly, I don't think they should do that. I don't think they will do it. I don't think they should do it. So that's kind of where I'm at on that. Anyway, thanks for writing that in, man. It is a crazy theory, and stranger things have happened, dude. Stranger things have happened. All right, Wakanda Forever writes, Falcon and the White Wolf, the tension, fellas, it must be mating season. Like an old married couple, the action still holds up. I love the marching band. 2 for 2 episodes. I think we got another hit. We are not Assassin's Line. I'm not sure what that means. Low blow, Sam, too soon. So yeah, listen, this is a very, very different show from what WandaVision was. Clearly, it's a very, very different show, but I'm telling you, I'm buying into this. I am liking this show a lot so far. it is still really weird to think that we're only 2 episodes in, but all we have is 4 episodes left. Like in WandaVision, by the time we only had 4 episodes left, we had already had 5 episodes. Now, we've only had 2 episodes and we've only got 4 left. I mean, so it's something very unsatisfying about that. Very unsatisfying about that, but we'll see where they go with it. All right, next up. Ashley M. writes, "Hey, John. While I don't love Man of Steel or Batman vs. Superman, I did like the 2017 Justice League. But I really like the Snyder cut, and I'm fully on board now with Henry Cavill's Superman. Now that I can see Snyder's vision for his character, sad he won't return." Yeah, and again, it's unfortunate that we all forget that Justice League wasn't Warner Brothers' first go-around with Zack Snyder. They did Man of Steel, one of the greatest comic book movies of all time. They did Batman vs. Superman, which I really liked. Again, the unfortunate thing is what Warner Brothers saw were 2 movies that underperformed, were completely divisive. Half the critics hated it, half the audiences hated them. I still have no idea how anybody dislikes Man of Steel. It's all art. It's all subjective. I get it. I'm just saying it still confounds me how there are people who really don't like Man of Steel. I do not understand that. But that being said, so it's not like Warner Brothers didn't give it a go. And then again, if you're Warner Brothers, like again, if I'm an exec at Warner Brothers, I keep going with it. But I understand their decision not to, because you do these films, they underperform. You have the biggest comic book characters in history with Batman and Superman. They don't do the way you want them to do. They're very divisive. They're received very divisively. And then you make other movies without him, and they getting rave reviews and people love them. And you get movies making billions of dollars. And I get it. I do. And I think if you're rational and you look at it from their point of view, you get it. It's not what I would do, but I get it. And yeah. But I think instead of people being sad they're not getting any more, you should just be happy that you got it and then move on. But who knows? We'll see what happens. We will see what the future holds. All right, next up. Thanks for that, Ashley. Wakanda Forever writes, "Hey, hold your horses, fellas. There is nothing wrong with using black in our names. Black Panther, anyone? Sam, come on now, brother. You don't do my man like that. I ain't mad at you, young man. We got to stick together. LOL, Wakanda Forever." Well, but the thing is, that's not his name. His name is not Black Falcon. His name is Falcon, right? Black Lightning can be called that, but Luke Cage isn't Black Luke Cage. It's Luke Cage. Not every black character needs to put the name Black before their name. So that's why I personally like that scene a lot. As the kid sees Sam and he says, "You're Black Falcon." He's like, "My name's Falcon. Are you Black Kid?" I thought that was fun. The way Sam said that, but that's me. All right. Next up, Wakanda also writes, "Okay, Disney, you went there. Cops messing with my man Falcon. Let him know, San. It's getting real, Marvel. Wakanda Forever." Yeah, somebody else was bringing that up a little bit earlier too, that, between introducing Isaiah as the Black Super Soldier, then that whole cop scene up front, which I thought was really well done and handled. And then I also love the irony that at the end of it, it was Bucky who ended up getting arrested. I thought that was funny. But no, that they're delving into stuff. They're constantly changing gears here, and that's what's keeping them fresh and sharp and on top of all this stuff, Wakanda. All right, next up. The Sock writes, "Movies I watched for the first time this week. Ocean's 11, nice. I love Ocean's 11. Ocean's 11 is a good example of a remake that's better than the original. Now, I don't know how many Frank Sinatra fans out there are getting all mad at me for saying that, but I thought this is one of those examples where the remake is actually better than the original. Anyway, Wolf of Wall Street, magnificent. The Big Short, magnificent. And mid-90s, truly loved every single one. That is a good week, Mr. Sock, of film watching. That is a good, solid week of film watching. Good on you for that. All right, next up. Tony Rodriguez writes, "Okay, Campea, I know you're not big on the DC Marvel tunes, but Invincible on Amazon," and obviously this was written in on Saturday, I think. "I know you're not big on DC or Marvel tunes, but Invincible on Amazon is what you should be watching. The voice cast alone and the animation is Justice League Unlimited ×2. Superman and Son story to start. Steven Yeun, who was, what was his name again? He was in Walking Dead. He's the guy who got his eye knocked out. He got hit in the head so hard with the bat, his eye knocked out. Anyway, can't remember the character's name. Is the main character. And again, I'm very impressed Glenn, thank you guys. Token number 1 and Marcus in the live chat. Glenn, that was his character's name, Glenn. Which is funny because the dude is 37 years old doing the voice of a high school student. He's 37 years old, but whatever. Anyway. Okay. But yes, I've been very impressed with this show. Obviously everybody's only 3 episodes in, but I am loving what I'm seeing so far, and I cannot wait to watch more. All right, next up, Tony Rodriguez also writes, and there's a messed up Superman versus the Justice League twist. In the first episode, you got Amazon. What do you got to lose? If you're not convinced, Invincible is basically the cartoon version of The Boys, at least so far. First 3 40-minute episodes are up now. Again, I have watched it. It's great. I'm enjoying it a great deal, and I cannot wait to see episode 4. All right, next up, we got a useless nobody who writes, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Superman and Lois, and Invincible are all airing at the same time. I don't think we've ever gotten this many comic book shows of this quality at once. We have. I'll talk about that in a second. Are you watching Invincible, by the way? Yes, I am. I haven't seen you talk about it. The cast is insane. Yeah, the voice cast is whatever. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love hearing J.K. Simmons doing the voice of Omni-Man and everything, but the voice cast doesn't, whatever. I'm totally good with no-name voice actors who are very talented voice actors, so I don't really care that much about the cast. That said, it's been great. I would say, though, that better than Falcon, Winter Soldier, Superman and Lois, and Invincible all playing at the same time, better than that is The Boys, Doom Patrol, and Umbrella Academy all playing at the same time. I mean, both trios are amazing. Both trios are great. But yes, if I had to choose Falcon, Winter Soldier, Superman and Lois, and Invincible, or The Boys, Umbrella Academy, and Doom Patrol, I'm taking The Boys, Umbrella Academy, and Doom Patrol. It's all subjective, but I am loving Invincible so far. I cannot wait to watch more of it. All right, guys, last question of the day. This comes to us from Cam K, who writes, Hey, John, question about copyright laws. You often feature Rob on your channel, and he has toys and movie covers and whatnot in his background. Even though he's not doing any commentary on some of them, how would this qualify under fair use? It doesn't have to qualify under fair use. These are products that he bought and owns in his home, and he is shooting. He has the right to shoot in his home. So now sometimes you'll see things like, well, they'll blank out like a logo on a shirt or something. I think more times or not, that's them having their own conflict. Like, here's a great example of this. I watch some poker on TV. I like watching some WPT on TV. And quite often what'll happen is there'll be a player who has like some poker website logo on his hat. And what will happen is the TV network will blur it out. It's not that they're worried about getting in trouble by that poker brand. It's that, hey, that poker brand has not paid us to be advertised on our show, so we're going to blur it out. So sometimes that's the case. But no, you don't need any fair use stuff. If I own any more than I need fair use of this Rode microphone, right? This Rode microphone, this is copyright Rode. This is their brand, but I don't need to have fair use or right. This is my mic. I'm in my studio shooting my show. This can be in the shot, right? So I'm oversimplifying it by a mile, but that gives you at least a basic general idea of that. Anyway, guys, that will do it. Now, there are still more questions to come, guys. Lots more questions. We've got more from Wakanda Forever, Josh Rasco, Mr. 47, Power is Power, and on. Do not worry, guys. We're going to do a companion video a little bit later this afternoon. You might have noticed, by the way, that on yesterday's companion video, there was no Kimberly Curran, and there won't be Kimberly Curran on today's either. Kimberly, a family member, had a car accident. Everything's fine. Everything's fine. Kimberly gave me a call. She had a family member in a car accident, so she's not going to be on for the next day or two, couple of days, as she's looking after family stuff. Again, everything's okay, but there was that. So when you see me do a companion video later and Kim's not with me, don't worry about it. She's fine, and she will be back later in the week. But we will do a companion video later today. We'll get caught up a little bit more on all the questions. But for now, guys, that'll do it. For today's long episode of the John Campea Show, thank you guys for taking time out of your day to spend with us here. Special thank you to all of you guys who sent in those live questions. Number one, because you gave us great fun things to talk about. But number two, you also supported this channel as you did it. And all of us here involved with the John Campea Show, thank you guys so much for your support. Okay, guys, remember, do the four main things. Stay smart, stay safe, take care of yourselves, and take care of the people around you. That'll do it for me for now, guys. My name's John Campea, and until next time, my friends, bye-bye.